members here in the meeting room. The meeting is public. We are followed by our partners, cities and regions, representatives of civil society, journalists across Europe. But before we start, there are some logistical aspects. I would like to remind you that we have interpretation for English, Polish and Ukrainian, as well as passive interpretation from French and German. You can choose the preferred language channel in the upper part of your screen. A member or speaker connected remotely and wishing to take the floor should select Raise Hand button located in the middle of the screen. Wait for the speak button to turn blue and then click on it to turn the microphone on. Once you finish the intervention, please switch the microphone off by clicking on the speak button again. Members and speakers in the room, please raise your real hand and then, when given the floor, switch on the room microphone. So we are moving to number 1 of our agenda, adoption of the agenda. We can now proceed to the meeting itself. I can't see any objections. So we have all received the agenda. Are there any objections, comments? All right, thank you very much. If not, the agenda is adopted. So we move to number 2 of the agenda, my remarks. Dear members, dear participants, we meet today under tragic circumstances. At our last meeting in November, we were discussing the launch of new peer-to-peer exchanges with Ukrainian cities. Our long-term partners from Mariupol were proudly describing the real successes in fight against corruption and raised transparency of their administration. And the mayor of Kiev spoke optimistically about how democratic reforms and efficient management are making Ukrainian cities more attractive and how this now today will help bringing the breakaway territories of Donetsk and Lugansk back. We didn't believe until the last moment that such atrocity of a Russian aggression war was possible, and yet here we are. Beautiful and peaceful Ukrainian cities and towns are bombed and burned by the Russian army. Thousands of civilians are dead. Millions flee. Mayors have to defend their citizens with the price of their own lives. In front of this catastrophe, we local and regional politicians have been doing our best to speak up and support Ukraine with all means we have. At the summit in Marseille on 3rd of March, all core members unanimously condemned Russian military aggression of Ukraine and expressed their unwavering support for Ukrainians, their sovereignty and freedom in the Declaration on Solidarity with Ukraine. Our members were quick to mobilize resources, organize humanitarian aid, collection centers, match offers of help from individuals and organizations with the need on the ground. I won't be singling out examples, but I'm confident that everyone in this room did donations, sent humanitarian aid trucks to Ukraine, welcomed refugees, or brought together manifestations of support. Please share your experiences later during this meeting. As a sign of support and solidarity, the Corps will offer a temporary host in its buildings 1 or 2 representatives of the Ukrainian Association of Local and Regional Authorities who at the moment don't have a permanent representation in Brussels. Beyond symbolic support of exposing Ukrainian flag colors on our building, dedicating almost the entire Marseille summit to Ukraine and granting honorary membership to the mayor of Kiev, Vitaly Klitschko, the European Committee of Regions set up a special webpage, Solidarity with Ukraine, where we collected requests for humanitarian aid directly from our Ukrainian partners. We also reach out to the other EU institutions and specialized organizations such as International Red Cross and defined where our contribution fits best. The website will be revamped today to include a new feature, Info Support Hub for regions and cities, to provide up-to-date information about the possibilities to receive Ukrainian refugees in our member constituencies across the EU. We will be announcing the official launch of this hub later today. The effort of the core of our working group and of all members are directed towards three priorities. First, providing humanitarian aid to Ukraine, including to the Ukrainian cities hosting internally displaced persons. Second, helping the refugees in the EU, including assisting the border regions facing immense numbers of incoming Ukrainians fleeing the war. And lastly, reconstruction of post-war Ukraine. The last question may seem difficult to address just now, as the scale of destruction is still not known, but we must foresee this aspect as well and already start planning resources. Our agenda today is also focused on two main issues: humanitarian aid and supporting Ukrainian refugees. Just now, please let me share a few of my experiences from my visit to Lviv. Just after me, we will have a connection with Mayor of Lviv, Andrzej Sadowy, so he will say a few words about the situation in his city and the needs they have. 2 weeks ago, we visited Lviv with Mayor of Sopot, Gdynia, and representative of regional authorities, Pomeranian regions, and myself. We visited hospital where we met soldiers who were wounded after one of the attacks. But we visited also office of Mayor Sadowy, and I think that no one in this room can imagine how it is to go downstairs every single day to the basement to govern your own city or region, to have an extra office in the basement because you cannot work normally. But the most important was that Mayor Sadowy said that they really need concrete actions and concrete help. For example, quite plenty of Polish cities, including my city of Gdańsk, we sent public transportation buses, because this is, for example, what they really need. This is something they send their own buses to the other part of Ukraine, also to help on the front line. So, for example, Silesian region, they sent 13 buses. Gdynia and Gdańsk, we sent four buses, not empty, of course, with humanitarian aid. I think that we, as people who are always closer to the citizens, we also can really help directly, can think of this, what really we can do. And one more thing, when we were sitting and talking to Mayor Sadowy and his staff, he said, "Excuse me, I need to go to the cathedral to pay my tribute to one of the citizens of Lviv who died on the front line." So I asked, "Can we go with you?" And I must tell you that this moment when you stand in front of the coffin of a young boy, I think he was 20 years old, and you see his mother, his father. Mother was, of course, crying. Father said that he's not crying anymore. There are more Ukrainians who will go on front line and fight. And Mayor Sadowy said, "This is my everyday job. Today, I pay a tribute to the one citizen of Lviv, but normally there are 4 or 5 every single day." So this is not a war. We can, of course, see it almost online. It's not somewhere far away. Lviv is only 60, 70 kilometers from Polish border, from border of the European Union. And those people are really fighting for the European values. So I really deeply believe that we as Europeans can feel that this is European war, and that we will do everything what is possible to stop the war and help Ukrainians to be a part of European family, also in a legal sense. Thank you very much. So this is all from me. I saw that Mayor Andriy Sadov is already with us. Andriy, are you there?
Morning.
Hello. Dzień dobry, Andrzeju. Witaj. You may speak Ukrainian, and then we will have translation for all the members here.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will use Ukrainian language. По-перше, подяка за можливість сьогодні виступити перед вами. Як ви знаєте, 35-й день ми є у війні. Більше 200 тисяч російських солдат, тисячі танків, літаків вторглися на нашу територію. Кожного дня сотні обстрілів, і ми сьогодні бачимо зруйновані міста і вбиті цивільні люди, діти, більше 145 дітей сьогодні вбито російським агресором. Сьогодні Росія – це є нацистська країна, яка поставила собі за мету знищити Україну і знищити українських людей. І вони це роблять чітко, цілеспрямовано і підло. Кожного дня вони атакують цивільні об'єкти, школи, садочки, лікарні. Люди наші мужньо захищають кожне місто, кожен метр. І сьогодні Львів, який також був атакований ракетами російськими, знищені декілька підприємств, є поранені в нас у Львові, є сьогодні чи не найбільшим в світі центром для прийому людей, які, ховаючись від бомбардувань, від ракетних ударів, приїхали до нас. Це в основному є жінки, це діти. Сьогодні Львів приймає 200 тисяч українців, які знайшли в нас можливість бути. Це дуже велике навантаження на місто, і пані президент Гданська бачила це на власні очі. І велика подяка вам за вашу мужність, що ви одною з перших приїхали до Львова. Також багато інших мерів приїжджають до Львова. Що не можна сказати про міжнародні організації, тому що перший місяць часу вони всі спали, вони не були готові до жодної допомоги. Натомість ми бачимо взагалі шокуючі приклади, коли Червоний Хрест відкриває офіс в Ростові-на-Дону, в Росії, і буде допомагати українцям, яких насильно вивозять з України на російську землю, що є абсурдом. Вже потрошки починає працювати ЮНІСЕФ, але ми бачимо тотальну кризу всіх міжнародних організацій, які мали б допомагати людям, які ховаються від біди. Міста допомагають, країни напряму, а всі ті кошти, які ви скеровуєте в міжнародні організації, не знаю, куди вони діваються. Я коротко вам розкажу, які в нас є проблеми. Ми вже достатньо якісно організували менеджмент, хоча ви повинні розуміти, до мільйонного міста приїхало ще 200 тисяч, це ще одне місто, це дуже складно, але моїм колегам в Маріуполі, в Києві, в Чернігові, в Запоріжжі, в Харкові набагато важче. Ми вже сьогодні розуміємо, що з тих 200 тисяч людей, які в нас зараз є тут додатково, орієнтовно 50 тисяч залишиться, і ми вже зарезервували земельні ділянки, де потрібно будувати для них житло. Це орієнтовно нам треба буде збудувати близько 1 мільйона метрів квадратних житла. І, звичайно, що ми би хотіли розраховувати на підтримку. Ми не говоримо «подаруйте нам кошти», ми говоримо «дайте можливість отримати кредитну лінію хоча б на 20-25 років під чисто символічний відсоток». І тут мова йде про орієнтовно 500 мільйонів, тому що це треба вже будувати 500 мільйонів євро. Я думаю, що Європейський Союз зможе нам в цьому допомогти. Ми сьогодні вже більш-менш маємо розуміння по медикаментах, по продуктах харчування, І ще раз хочу наголосити про допомогу, яку ми напряму отримуємо від польських міст. Також до Львова приїжджав мер Кан, до Львова приїжджав мер Талліна. І також вас, шановні колеги, запрошую, приїжджайте до Львова, ви напряму побачите ситуацію. І ще на що би я хотів звернути увагу. Сьогодні Росія – це є нацистська країна, яка вбиває українців, і це роблять тисячі і тисячі громадян Росії. Я би хотів, щоб всі ми з вами розуміли, що ця країна потребує тотальної ізоляції, що кожен, хто сьогодні працює з російськими НГО, культурними, спортивними організаціями, він працює з нацистами. Тотальна ізоляція. Вони повинні програти цю війну, вони повинні платити всі кошти, які необхідно для того, щоб ми могли виживати, тому що це надзвичайно велика сума. По підрахунках наших економістів мова йде вже про збитки орієнтовно в $1 трильйон. Це то, що Росія сьогодні зробила біду, і вона далі обстрілює. Ми кожного дня маємо обстріли, перебуваємо в укритті. Дуже складна ситуація, але ще раз хочу подякувати, пані президент, за вашу увагу, за ваш особистий візит. Сьогодні мої колеги, мери українських міст, будуть вам розказувати ситуацію своїх територій. А я хочу вас тільки запевнити, що би не було, українці будуть битися до кінця. Ми не віддамо жодного метру нашої землі. Ми розуміємо, що сьогодні ми боремося за демократію, за свободу в цілому світі. І з кожним днем це розуміння приходить до більшої кількості людей. Ми захистимо світ, напевно, така сьогодні місія нашої України. Навіть якщо не весь світ нас зрозуміє. Дякуємо за підтримку. Слава всім вільним людям в світі. Слава Україні!
Drogi merze Sadowy, drogi Andrzeju, bardzo dziękuję Ci, że połączyłeś się z nami mimo licznych obowiązków. Dziękuję za te słowa i zapewniam, że naprawdę będziemy robili wszystko, co w naszej mocy, żebyś nie czuł się osamotniony i żeby Ukraińcy nie czuli się osamotnieni. Bardzo dziękuję, serdeczne pozdrowienia przesyłamy do Lwowa. Now we are moving straight into the first thematic sessions dedicated to humanitarian aid for Ukraine. Our second session will analyze the situation around Ukrainian refugees, and the last session will provide space for overall political debate. I would like to ask the members to actively participate in discussions at the end of each sessions, addressing specifically the topic of the session. Now we have our speakers. I really would like to ask you to speak maximum 5 minutes each. First speaker, also from Ukraine, Viaczesław Nehoda, Deputy Minister for Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine. Mr. Nehoda was also present during our last meeting in November. The floor is yours, Mr. Nehoda.
Шановна пані голово та учасники засідання, перш за все хочу висловити вдячність за можливість виступити на цьому засіданні, яке вперше проходить в умовах широкомасштабної військової агресії, яку здійснює Росія проти України. Як представник уряду України хотів би подякувати за всебічну підтримку та допомогу, яку країни Європи вже надали та продовжують надавати Україні. Для нас це надскладні часи героїчної боротьби українського народу з агресором, який кинув виклик не лише нам, а всьому цивілізованому демократичному світу. На жаль, від наслідків російської агресії постійно збільшується число людських жертв. Повністю знищені десятки міст і сіл. Понад 10 мільйонів громадян України покинули свої домівки і вже близько 4 мільйонів залишили країну. На жаль, на окупованих територіях, в містах, які оточені ворогом, гуманітарна катастрофа і їх мешканці не мають засобів для життя, не мають продуктів і навіть інколи води. В цих складних умовах уряд України здійснює постійний моніторинг і має повну інформацію стосовно гуманітарних потреб в регіонах України, в кожному із населених пунктів, і ми налагодили систему оперативного розподілу в них допомоги. Окрім цього, Офіс президента України спільно з командою нашого уряду розробили та запустили портал гуманітарної допомоги help.gov.ua, де в зручному форматі можна дізнатися, як відправити і кому адресувати гуманітарний вантаж, як перерахувати кошти для підтримки армії чи допомоги постраждалим мирним мешканцям. Є тут також контакти закордонних та українських гуманітарних хабів і багато іншої інформації. Відповідно до аналітичних даних порталу, наразі в Україні існує нагальна потреба в допомозі, а саме це в першу чергу медикаменти, продовольство, санітарно-гігієнічні засоби, паливо, ну і багато різних технічних засобів, які життєзабезпечення населених пунктів. Окремо хочу наголосити на нагальній потребі у забезпеченні бронежилетами та шоломами для українських медиків, журналістів та поліцейських, які щодня, ризикуючи своїм життям, в найгарячіших точках рятують тисячі невинних людських життів та фіксують військові злочини російських окупаційних військ. Крім того, тиждень тому уряд своїм рішенням максимально спростив всі процедури проходження закордонної гуманітарної допомоги будь-якому отримувачу в Україні. Згідно цього рішення, для завезення гуманітарної допомоги потрібно лише один документ. Це декларація, яка заповнюється дуже швидко, в ній вказується відправника, отримувача, фактичне місце розвантаження, вид допомоги, і цього достатньо для проходження вантажу. Разом з тим війна продовжується і потреби в гуманітарній допомозі зростають як в громадах, які перебувають в епіцентрі бойових дій, так і в тих, що прийняли безпрецедентну кількість внутрішньо переміщених осіб, про що тільки що сказав мер Львова. А таких місць сьогодні дуже і дуже багато, практично всі. За результатом проведення вже 3 раундів міжнародного марафону єднання місцевого самоврядування світу задля благополуччя людей і миру, ми бачимо неабияку солідарність місцевого самоврядування України та країн Європейського Союзу, що безперечно має бути використано для перемоги над країною-агресором, над Росією. Безперечно, велика кількість європейських муніципалітетів всіма можливими способами підтримує своїх партнерів в Україні, але ця підтримка може бути більш ефективнішою за умови існування певної координаційної платформи надання гуманітарної допомоги у форматі громада громаді та напрацювання інституційних механізмів посилення реагування на гуманітарні виклики. Враховуючи досвід успішної роботи стосовно зміцнення міжмуніципальних зв'язків та мережу контактів, підтримку Мінрегіону у напрацюванні зазначених механізмів та координації платформи на рівні громада-громаді могло б надати програма Європейського Союзу «Юліт з Європою». Будемо вдячні за розгляд цієї ініціативи. Користуючись також нагодою, хочу відзначити значний внесок Європейського Союзу у зміцнення системи місцевого самоврядування та територіальної організації влади в Україні, що ми здійснювали впродовж останніх років. Адже завдяки досягненню реформи децентралізації в Україні сформувалась міцна та згуртована місцева влада, яка сьогодні відіграє винятково важливу роль у героїчному опорі України проти російських загарбників. Дозвольте звернутися і закликати всіх присутніх до єднання місцевих та регіональних влад демократичних країн Європи задля посилення санкційного тиску на країну-агресора, а також забезпечення максимальної міжнародної ізоляції Росії задля зупинення кровопролиття. Насамкінець хотів би також закликати всіх присутніх підтримати прагнення України стати членом Європейського Союзу і використати для того всі можливі також спрощені процедури. Цивілізаційні демократичні цінності Україна відстоює упродовж уже декількох десятиліть. І ми своєю сьогодні позицією, своєю боротьбою доводимо, що ми маємо право бути в одній європейській родині. Дякую за підтримку. Разом ми є сила, ми разом переможемо, і Європа буде мирною і демократичною територією світу. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nehoda. Now we are moving to the voice of European Commission. Maria Zuber, Deputy Head of Unit, ERCCC, DG ECHO.
Dziękuję bardzo, Pani Przewodnicząca. I'll switch into English. Indeed, I come from the department of the Commission that deals with civil protection and humanitarian aid. Maybe we can switch to another slide already, where we react to all kind of disasters, be it natural disasters, but also man-made disasters, including, unfortunately, situations like we are facing now, war. We act through two different tools. So one is we provide in-kind assistance and expertise through the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, and also we provide humanitarian aid through the funding to our partners. Union Civil Protection Mechanism is a mechanism that allows coordination of response of member states. So the member states can offer in-kind assistance to the country that requests for support when its own means are overwhelmed. So Emergency Response Coordination Center is the operational arm of this mechanism. We monitor 24/7 disasters and risks around the globe. We also assess the risks related to those to different threats. When something happens, we provide real-time information, and mostly what we do is really coordinate the joint response operations. So these next slides. Ukraine activated the Union Civil Protection Mechanism already on the 15th of February, so before the war started, in preparation for a large-scale emergency that could have a significant impact on the civil population. And you see on this slide that this is the biggest mobilization of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism in history. We are in continuous contact with the Ukrainian authorities, and as the previous speaker explained, the needs are huge. The needs, the list, we have 40 lists that are constantly being updated by the Ukrainian authorities, who are assessing what is mostly needed. Indeed, this is food, this is ready-to-eat meals, this is medical equipment, medicines, protective equipment, fuel, almost everything. Union Civil Protection Mechanism consists of all EU member states, but also 6 participating states, including Iceland, Norway, Turkey, North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia. In this particular mobilization of the mechanism, all member states provide assistance, but also Turkey, also Turkey and Norway. You see, in this particular case, we have a very specific geographical conditions, because Ukraine can be accessed only through a few member states, and that is why we are channeling this assistance through our logistical hubs set up in Poland. This is the biggest hub, but also in Romania and Slovakia. So all member states that are sending assistance go through these hubs. And also, again, I want to confirm what previous speaker said. We have very good cooperation with Ukrainian authorities that really made it very easy to send all the humanitarian assistance. This is very easy to cross the border. We mostly use trains because that's the safest and the quickest. So we have in Poland and in Slovakia the trains that can easily just change the locomotive at the border and continue into Ukraine, so that we are also sure that this assistance gets where it needs to be. These maps show you which country offers what type of assistance. Later on, this presentation can be circulated, so you can also read all the details. We've sent also lots of experts to the countries that are supporting us in channeling the assistance. And as I mentioned, this is really the biggest mobilization ever. The next slide, you will just see a couple of pictures. So to see how this works, you see that this is really impressive solidarity of member states. You see the the firefighting trucks that are heading towards Ukraine. You see trains loaded by medicines. There are plenty of ambulances that have been given to the Ukrainian authorities so that they can be used to save lives. On the next slides, you'll see the second part of our work. So this is humanitarian funding. We mobilized additionally 85 million euros to Ukraine, and also 8 additional million euros for Moldova. This money is being given to the partners, UN agencies such as UNHCR, WFP, IOM, Red Cross, and these partners. Of course, initially they were most in the east. Now they are also scaling up their presence and their activities in entire territory of Ukraine. And many of them have reset their centers. Now they are mostly in Lviv, and they operate from there. We try to cut the bureaucratic burden, so the additional money that was allocated to our humanitarian partners in Ukraine were disbursed very quickly, and so all now is contracted, and our partners are already can purchase basic food, sanitation, hygiene kits, and provide support. On the next slide, you see a little bit more who are our partners, in which sector they work, and where they provide assistance. And then the next slide shows you the other facet of the drama, so people that need to flee, people that leave Ukraine, and you see that now it's almost 4 million people that had to leave their houses and escape the war. They mostly go to Poland, but also there is a big inflow in Moldova, also Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia. On the next slide, what you will see is that Union Civil Protection Mechanism, it can be activated not only by third countries, but also countries inside the EU. And this is also what happens. Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Moldova are also under big pressure. They are amazingly welcoming the refugees, but they need assistance. The numbers that you've seen on the previous slides are really high. And hence these countries requested for additional support in shelter items type blankets, field beds, heaters, but also medicines. We see that many people that are fleeing need specialized medical assistance. They need medicines. They need some vaccination. So this is something that the other member states that are less affected by those inflows are also supporting those at the border with Ukraine, so that we can receive all the fleeing with dignity and giving them the most everything that they need. And on the next slide, and that's maybe the last point that I wanted to flag, is indeed the medical evacuation. For the moment, we don't have big inflows of wounded, but what we are seeing already, that as I mentioned, we have lots of people that are fleeing that have severe illnesses and need specialist care. Many of them reach Poland, and the Polish medical system is under pressure. So we have established, together with the Department of Health, a specific procedure for medical evacuation when Polish government is identifying patients that need specific assistance. The first evacuations took place over a week ago, and they were children with cancer, and so we found the hospitals that they can provide care for the children. So together with their parents, they were transferred in a specific medical planes to Italy. But you see also that there are many others. Actually, now it's already 19 patients that were transferred to different countries. You see Germany, Ireland, Italy, Norway, and we support under the mechanism also the transport costs. So this is just to say that how important it is that we are all united, and that we support Ukraine in all different means, be it by providing humanitarian assistance, in-country assistance, but also providing assistance inside Europe to be able to receive the refugees. And on that last maybe element, I would like to really highlight that this is in the local level, in the regions, that this reception is being done, because in many countries this is the regional competence where you are managing the hospitals, the education that you give the colleagues in the latter sessions. Will talk about probably the temporary protection directive, but also here from our side, from the civil protection side, we can also offer support to member states under pressure to bring assistance from other member states to be able to support also the regions. The only thing is that you need to flag it to your civil protection authorities, because all the support that comes under the Union Civil Protection Mechanism is being channeled through the civil protection contact points. And with this, I will thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this presentation and information, Ms. Zuber. Now we are moving again to Ukraine. I think we have connection with Mr. Sergei Chernov. He also was present during our November meeting, member of Kharkiv Regional Council, but also president of the Ukrainian Association of Regional and District Council. Mr. Chernov, bardzo proszę, please.
Дякую. Мене чути, пане президенте, так? Я надіюся, що з'явився зв'язок. Я вітаю, пане президенте, вас, пані, шановні колеги. Я прошу вибачення, у мене не було стабільного зв'язку. Я не все чув те, що на початку говорилося. Може повторюся, а може дещо додам. В першу чергу хочу подякувати пані президенту, нашим колегам сьогодні за те, що в такий важкий період для України звертаєте ви увагу, допомагаєте кожен день, і ми відчуваємо цю допомогу. Хотів би сказати, що це
I think we lost the connection. So maybe we will move to next speaker, and then we'll try to reconnect with Mr. Chernov. Please remember that around Kharkiv there are severe fires, therefore maybe this is one of the reasons why we don't have good connection. Mr. Ortyl, Panie Marszałku, the floor is yours.
Dziękuję bardzo, Pani Przewodnicząca. Szanowni Państwo, mamy 30. dzień bohaterskiego oporu Ukrainy. Myślę, że musimy pamiętać o tym, że jesteśmy świadkami nieprawdopodobnych zjawisk, wydarzeń. Jesteśmy świadkami nieprawdopodobnej solidarności w naszym kraju, w Europie. I myślę, że też dla nas nieprawdopodobne są dla przykładu uprowadzenia samorządowców. Mieliśmy takie przypadki na Ukrainie, protestowaliśmy w tej sprawie. Proszę Państwa, jesteśmy w XXI wieku, jesteśmy w Europie. No to są rzeczy, które naprawdę nie możemy tolerować, musimy działać. Proszę Państwa, jak wygląda pomoc dla uchodźców, jak wygląda wspieranie tej pomocy w naszym województwie, w naszym kraju, jak tak przebiega ta operacja, ja powiem, ona angażuje takie 4 obszary. Obszar obywatelski, proszę Państwa, obszar organizacji pozarządowych, obszar związany z samorządami i instytucjami, czym my jesteśmy bardzo zainteresowani, no i wreszcie też na czele tego wszystkiego stoi rząd z wojewodami, z agendami, swoimi służbami kryzysowymi. Powiem jedną rzecz, ta kolejność nie ma znaczenia, w jakiej ja tu wymieniam te 4 obszary, ale chcę jedną rzecz podkreślić, że społeczeństwo obywatelskie naszego kraju zdało egzamin. Naprawdę to jest wielki fenomen i przez to między innymi możemy powiedzieć, i tak jest, że obozów uchodźców w naszym kraju nie ma. Ci ludzie są w rodzinach, są w instytucjach naszego samorządowych, są w instytucjach rządowych, także myślę, że nie ma tu problemów. Jak wygląda to finansowanie? Tak popatrzmy na to z góry. Znaczy po pierwsze, proszę Państwa, ten pierwszy etap to był taki, że nikt nie pytał o pieniądze, nikt nie pytał o pokrywanie kosztów. To jest też charakterystyczne. W drugim momencie teraz jesteśmy już pod mocą zmienionej ustawy. Możemy jako samorządy dedykować tą pomoc na Ukrainę i dla uchodźców, którzy są na terenie naszego województwa, naszego kraju. I tu chcę powiedzieć, że samorząd województwa podkarpackiego na swojej sesji sejmiku potwierdził w poniedziałek, że 3,5 miliona złotych przekazuje na te działania. Ale oczywiście także czekamy, a jesteśmy na dobrej drodze i uzgodnieni z Komisją Europejską i z naszym ministerstwem na zaangażowanie środków europejskich. Mam tu na myśli, dla przykładu, na Podkarpaciu ponad 50 milionów złotych chcemy na te działania przeznaczyć. No i myślę, proszę Państwa, że trzeba powiedzieć, że w tym poczuciu solidarności my działamy jako samorząd województwa podkarpackiego i wspieramy, ale też mamy swoje podkarpackie stowarzyszenie samorządów, też mamy porozumienia z licznymi i współdziałanie z licznymi samorządami w kraju, którzy przesyłają do nas, my staramy się to transferować dalej, Iwano-Frankiwski, Zakarpacki, czy też nawet oczywiście Odeski. To są wszystkie nasze regiony, z którymi mamy porozumienia, ale też transferujemy pomoc do tych regionów, które nie są na tej liście tych, z którymi podpisali nasze porozumienie. No myślę, proszę Państwa, że trzeba tu powiedzieć, że w tej kwestii też nam pomagają różnego rodzaju instytucje pozarządowe, tak, na przykład Polski Czerwony Krzyż, Caritas. No to są, że tak powiem, tacy giganci, można powiedzieć, kluczowi gracze, prawda? Ale mamy też do czynienia z tysiącami mniejszych, większych organizacji pozarządowych, które w różnych miejscach tutaj działają. Pamiętajmy o tym, że ta pomoc dla uchodźców i dla Ukrainy będzie długotrwała. To nie jest, że my to na krótki dystans nie możemy się tu przygotować, dlatego trzeba pamiętać o tym, że te możliwości mieszkańców, obywateli, też samorządów nie są ograniczone i potrzebujemy tutaj rozwiązań systemowych ze strony i naszego kraju, i też ze strony Komisji Europejskiej. Tak jak to zrobili nasi obywatele, prawda? Nikt im nie kazał oczywiście przyjmować, ani nie mówił, że mają przyjąć 1, 2 czy 5 rodzin, czy 5 osób, przepraszam. To tak samo musi być wypracowany taki mechanizm dobrowolności i wsparcia, jeżeli chodzi o relokację tych uchodźców w innych krajach Europy, i w ślad za tym powinny być dedykowane też oczywiście środki. Także tak to sobie wyobrażamy. I dlatego bardzo się cieszę, że ta inicjatywa regionów, krajów oczywiście, które są na granicy z Ukrainą, mam tu na myśli regiony polskie, mam na myśli regiony słowackie, węgierskie, rumuńskie, po prostu postulowały o to stworzenie tej bazy profesjonalnej, zweryfikowanej oferty, możliwości zakwaterowania i pracy w państwach europejskich. To jest naprawdę ważna sprawa. Też na pewno też podzielimy się tymi doświadczeniami, bo one są różne. Tych województw, które graniczą z Ukrainą, prawda, województwo lubelskie, województwo podkarpackie, ale też dla przykładu szef regionu granicznego z Węgier, Oskar Fesztak, jest naszym członkiem naszej grupy, też na pewno powie, jak to wygląda z pozycji jego regionu. Także my jesteśmy referencyjni, przyjmujemy, zaopatrujemy. Część uchodźców zostaje na naszym terenie, ale znaczna część jedzie w głąb kraju. Także tak to mniej więcej wygląda. Bardzo dziękuję Pani Przewodniczącej i wszystkim Państwu za możliwość podzielenia się tymi uwagami i też tymi komentarzami. Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ortyl. We send best regards to Podkarpackie region. And now I see that we have again connection with Mr. Chernow. Sergei, you have the floor.
Я прошу вибачення за
Okay, so we will try again. So now we are moving to Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski. Rafał, please share your experiences on humanitarian aid for Ukraine.
Dzień dobry, Pani Przewodnicząca. Dziękuję bardzo. Доброго ранку. Хочу би сказати, що я вітаю всіх друзів з України. І ми вільний світ і вільні міста пушаться Україну і підтримують Україну. I wanted to tell you a few things about what we do, of course, as cities in Poland. The solidarity of the Polish people is incredible and overwhelming and unprecedented from day one of this Russian aggression on Ukraine. First, the government, the central government reacted on the border, creating reception centers, and all the people, all the non-governmental organizations, and quite a lot of local and regional leaders rushed to the border to help out on those first days. And this is a testimony to the solidarity of the Polish people and of the coordination also of the Polish local and regional governments who were ready to help from day one. Later on, of course, the burden was also shifted to the cities which welcomed Ukrainians, and Warsaw alone accepted 300,000 Ukrainians. That's how many we have in my city. And just to give you a reference point, when we had the crisis, Mediterranean crisis in 2015, at a peak, we had 200,000 people coming to Europe a month, 200,000 people. And now we have 300,000 people in one city, in Warsaw alone, which means that the size of my city when it comes to population went up by almost 15% in a matter of months. And of course, we are doing everything we can to help. We're welcoming our Ukrainian friends. We've created those information points and reception centers, both the local government and also the central government. We provide medical help. We provide psychological help. We also granted Ukrainians a status which is very close to the status of the Polish citizens, which means that they do have access to free education, free healthcare, and social protection. But of course, it puts an enormous strain on all of us. And most of the city services are very much extended and sometimes even overwhelmed by what is happening, because most of my social workers now work with refugees. All of my psychologists work with refugees. And of course, also the government delegated most of the administrative tasks on the local and regional government, which means that it is my administration which is now registering Ukrainians and giving them our identity numbers, social security numbers, so that they have access to all of the things that I've enumerated. When it comes to humanitarian aid, we were also the first to help. We from Warsaw, we sent a first transport to Kiev on the second day of the Russian aggression. We have sent 304,000 pallets to Ukraine, 100 big tiered trucks, and today we are sending 100 wagon full of goods to Ukrainian cities. We decided to support mostly Kiev, our sister city, because of course it wasn't easy to access it, but we were able to actually work out a system whereby almost every day we send transports to Kiev. But we also try to support Kharkiv, which is another sister city, and Lviv, which is a city with which we have a special relationship. And all the best to you, Andriy, if you are still listening. We are sending food, we are sending medical supplies, we are sending hygiene products. This is very important because we are responding to the exact needs of our friends. We also have opened, because we were asked by Kiev, a special account in a bank, because now I think we need to move also to financial help, because that's what's most important at the time of need. I just wanted to tell you that what you're observing in Poland, besides, of course, the work done by the central government, is based mostly on the work of the civil society, on volunteers, on non-governmental organizations, and of course also because of the work done by us in the cities and in the regions. And that's why we need two things. First of all, we need a relocation system and a voluntary relocation system. We do not want to come back to the quotas, mathematical quotas of 2014-15. That was a bad idea. But we have pledges for almost all the countries of the European Union. We have pledges from the United States, from Canada. We just need to start coordinating it. We cannot improvise anymore. 10 days ago, when we had 30, 40,000 people arriving at Warsaw, I was calling different cities in the middle of the night, Polish cities, European cities, asking them to help us out, to send buses so that we can send Ukrainians for accommodation because we were full. We cannot do it anymore. We need a system. And of course, we don't know. We might have peace in Ukraine, and we all hope that peace will come soon, but we might also have another wave of refugees, and it will be very difficult for cities in Poland and regions in Poland to cope with it without a system. And secondly, we also need the United Nations agencies and also the European Union agencies to be authorized to work in Poland and create a system. Because as you know, that there is a fantastic division of labor in the international community dealing with migration. There is an incredible experience. We cannot do a piecemeal approach, pick and choose. We need a system because otherwise it's going to crash. And I'm not talking about only today accommodation, administrative duties, but of course we're talking about long-term work with our Ukrainian guests, possibility of integrating them, at least some of them, if they cannot go to Ukraine. And we don't know how the scenario will unfold. And final message. Of course, we all need financial help from the European Union and from the international community. But I make one plea. This money cannot all go to the central government. Of course, central government is always the main recipient of help, but it also has to go directly to refugees, to non-governmental organizations, and directly to local and regional governments. You know that we've been fighting in the Committee of the Regions for the possibility to use the European money directly by local and regional authorities. And of course, we talk about a small sum. This is the moment to start thinking out of the box. This is the moment to be innovative. This is the moment to support local and regional authorities who are at the first front of that fight. Because at the end of the day, the Ukrainians are fighting for our freedom, but also we need to do our bit. We need to prove to Putin that Europe is united, that the West is united, that we are not going to allow Putin to destabilize us, that we have answers together. And this is immensely important. Thank you for listening. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава. Thank you very much, Rafał. Thank you very much, Rafał Trzaskowski. I think that this is extremely important. Actually, what as I saw from the reaction here in the meeting room, what you maybe couldn't see, quite a lot of members were shaking the head, because this is one of the examples where we really need to talk with the European institution, European Commission, about the direct financing of the regions and cities in such cases like we have right now. We don't have, unfortunately, any more connection with Mr. Chernov. We are working on this. So now we are opening the debate. Okay, so first we have Emil Bock and then Mr. Roulion. So Emil Bock from EPP Group, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I would like to congratulate the local, regional, and national authorities from Poland for the way they are dealing with the refugees, having in mind they are the very first one in terms of numbers of refugees that they have to cope with. Of course, we have our strong support, solidarity with the Ukrainian authorities, and we are doing everything which is possible to help them. So I will share with you on the behalf of the Romanian authorities, which is the second country in terms of refugees, some concrete aspects. So far, we had in Romania 610,000 refugees. Out of them, 100 are still in the country. The rest of them left Romania for other countries of the European Union. So we still have in Romania around 100,000 refugees out of 600,000. What is important, out of 80,000 refugees, 40,000, almost 40,000 are children under 18 years old, and 24,000 are school children. So from that perspective, it was and it is important to include the children in the school system. We succeed to provide 58 schools and 10 high schools with the Ukrainian language in Romania in order to teach the kids from Ukraine in their own language. So I think this is a good way to do everything is possible to feel to the closer condition to their home from Ukraine, taking care about the kids in terms of education. The second point, we succeed to create in Suceava, on the border with Ukraine, at the county of Suceava, a humanitarian hub. What does it mean? We centralize all the support from Romania and from Western Europe, and after that go to Ukraine. So far we were able to send 102 trucks, 42 from Italy, 40 from France, 5 from Bulgaria, 4 from Austria, 10 from Romania, 7 from Slovenia, to send trucks with a lot of help, materials, humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and to centralize all the support. The third element, it's, I would say, a good model of good practices that the national government will succeed to create a platform to integrate support. So anyone who wants to give support in terms of food, medicaments, beds, and so on, they can call and provide support. The other one is for accommodation, another platform. So there are a lot of Romanians hosting Ukrainians at their home, and as in Poland, it's a huge solidarity and sympathy with the Ukrainian people, together with the strong support of the civil society. The last but not least, I would like to mention about healthcare. We provide by law that all citizens from Ukraine, all the refugees, are benefiting freely of medical assistance in the Romanian system in order to take care about their health support in the country. So from that support, I think we try to do our best in order to help the Ukrainian people. At the local level, I give just a small example from my city, Cluj-Napoca, in the very heart of Transylvania, Romania. We provide for our 2,000 refugees, we are in the city, a call center, bilingual call center, Romanian and in Ukrainian, 24 hours to provide support in all legal manners, from accommodations to other kind of education, Medicare, translations, legal documents, kids, and so on. So it's a way how we can make them feel as well as possible in our city and our country. Last but not least, I will close mentioning that as a president of Romanian Association of Municipalities, besides our support in and out of the country, we wrote a letter to 327 Russian mayors, telling them that what is happening in Russia right now, it is an atrocity. It's against of human being. It's against of any principle of democracy. It's against of the Russian people, because they are not guilty of the government from Kremlin. So we ask them to do everything they can to stop this war, to act at the local level, to convince the people, to convince their leaders that this war is so unjustful and we need to come back to the way of collaboration and cooperation. And I hope in the end, the local mayors from Russia will do something. We do not want to blame the Russian people for the mistakes of the Kremlin regime, because we want to have the Russian people on board on democracy in Europe, but in the same time to understand that no dictatorship is possible in Europe, and no one has the right to take the life of the others or to proclaim that no other nation should be available around Russia. So I'm so proud in the end as a European to see a unique and a strong response of the European Union towards Ukraine. You will see in the polls how European Union is getting better and better in the minds of the people, in trust in European Union, due to the very concrete response and very strong accent on our values. And staying united around Ukraine, we are standing also to defend our values. So thank you for letting me to participate in this group and to share with you our thoughts. And again, we stand with Ukraine because this is a marathon, unfortunately, not just a sprint. So we have to take care for a long period of time because as we can see in this very moment, it's a marathon of support, not just a sprint. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bok. Thank you, Emil. It is really good to hear also Romanian perspective because you are the only member here during our meeting from Romania. But I really would like to remind all of you that first we have this session on humanitarian aid, and second session that we will start briefly. It will be on refugees. So if you could really stick to the topic, it would be really good. On behalf of PES, Mr. Roulion.
Merci Madame la Présidente, Madame le Maire. Je voudrais tout d'abord dire notre soutien au nom du groupe socialiste du Comité européen des régions, fort de ses 90 membres, aux maires et présidents de région ukrainiens qui se battent et aussi au peuple ukrainien agressé. Nous sommes révoltés par les crimes de guerre, nous avons le cœur brisé par le massacre des femmes, des vieux, des enfants, et nous voulons continuer à agir très fortement dans toute l'Europe. Ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que Poutine a eu deux mauvaises surprises. C'est d'abord, bien entendu, la résistance militaire farouche des Ukrainiens, et c'est aussi la force de l'Union européenne et la force de la démocratie. Alors qu'il pensait avoir un ventre mou, il a eu au contraire des gens qui se sont dressés, qui se sont révoltés contre cette agression et qui se sont unis. Et je voudrais dire qu'une des bonnes nouvelles, c'est que le drapeau européen a retrouvé de ses couleurs, et c'est très important. Nous avons au groupe socialiste initié un certain nombre d'initiatives, avec en particulier le maire de Florence, notre collègue Nardella, et nous organisons tous les samedis et nous incitons les maires à se rassembler, à faire des rassemblements tous les samedis en soutien du peuple ukrainien. Le symbole est toujours important. Nous devons aussi agir efficacement par l'aide humanitaire. Nous soutenons bien entendu les livraisons d'armes défensives qui ont été faites par des États, par l'Union européenne, mais nous voulons aussi mieux coordonner l'aide humanitaire. De ce point de vue-là, je pense qu'il y a des progrès à faire en France, parce qu'on a plutôt dissuadé les membres d'envoyer directement du matériel, mais au contraire de faire des dons dans un fonds qui a été mis en place par l'État. La question des enfants aussi, des orphelins, des enfants déplacés est très importante, et là il y a une action vraiment déterminante à faire pour éviter que ces enfants tombent entre les mains d'organisations du crime organisé et qui puissent être soutenus et réinsérés en Europe. D'un point de vue financier, nous soutenons l'initiative de la Coter qui vise à recueillir les difficultés qui existent aujourd'hui pour recevoir l'aide dans les pays d'Ukraine. Et puis nous soutenons aussi, bien entendu aussi le maintien d'un dialogue avec la Russie et avec les maires. Et il y a une initiative excellente du maire, notre collègue Abou Tayeb, maire de Rotterdam, d'adresser une lettre à sa ville jumelée de Saint-Pétersbourg pour réaffirmer la nécessité de mettre un terme à la guerre. Une initiative semblable a été prise en Autriche, intitulée Flocons de neige. Et voilà, je pense que c'est important d'avoir aussi cette action en direction du peuple russe, parce qu'il faudra bien trouver un jour une issue à la crise. Et par la suite, il faut aussi penser peut-être dès maintenant à la reconstruction. Et nous espérons que les collectivités territoriales d'Europe, dans le domaine de l'eau, des déchets, de la reconstruction, pourront être des soutiens pour les collectivités territoriales d'Ukraine. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you very much. We have more speakers, more members to discuss. First, we have Mr. Branda from ECR Group, and then Mr. McCarthy from European Alliance.
Thank you, Mrs. Dulkevich. I come from the Czech Republic. I just want to stick to the topic, so I'll just mention our efforts towards Ukraine, and maybe mention the situation in the Czech Republic when we talk in the next session about the refugees. But I want to make two short points. One is what we've noticed was a great advantage of the partner regions and partner cities. Thanks to this, we were able to react more quickly than the official channels, even though there is a lot of efforts of people donating to different humanitarian organizations. But for example, our region, Liberec, has a partnership with Vinica, with Vinnytska Oblast in Ukraine. So we were able, within few days, actually receive concrete things that were needed for defending, for living. And there was a collection organized by the regional government in all the villages. People gathered things, and there were many trucks. It was organized by the firemen and trains shipped to Vinica with these concrete help. So I think this is a great advantage that we can do on the local and regional level. And the second point I want to make is we should already now think about a plan for reconstruction of Ukraine. I know we're now reacting to specific needs, but I think we should be also ready and devote some time to discuss how we will help rebuild Ukraine, because we just don't react to the situation when the war is over, but we are prepared for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Branda. Now Mr. McCarthy, and then we move to our speakers online.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I just have a question for Maria Zuber from the European Commission, if I may. It's just on the civil protection aid. I know. So
Maria
there is.
Zuber, are you listening?
Yeah, can I briefly ask? I suppose does that protection aid extend to local and regional authorities? I suppose the map showed member states and non-member states. I'm just wondering how much of that aid actually goes to local and regional authorities. And I may have the same question for Rafal in Warsaw. Is he actually liaising on that civil protection aid program as well, so he can help and push support back into Ukraine? And just to say as well, when I come from Cork in the south of Ireland, and the children that were evacuated through the civil protection aid on the Medivac have arrived safely in my city, in my university hospital, and are being looked after. So everybody across the EU, even on its western borders, is doing the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So first, Ms. Maria Zuber, and then Rafał Trzaskowski, if he's still with us.
No, thank you very much again for inviting, and thanks for all the comments. I think we're on the same line. I've heard also indeed that, as mentioned, that the reception of the refugees is so important on the local level, and again also here the Irish colleagues that confirmed the Medivac. So we are all standing together to support both Ukraine in Ukraine, but also Ukrainian fleeing from the war. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Rafał Trzaskowski, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yes, thank you. Yes, we are absolutely ready to liaise with the European Commission, and we are doing it. And let me explain how it works. The European Commission is, of course, on the ground, and I've talked to the representative of the European Commission from quite a few directorates general and to a few commissioners. And also the United Nations agencies are on the ground, both the High Commissioner for Refugees, the Migration Agency, UNICEF, and so on, and quite a lot of non-governmental organizations. The only problem is this, that there hasn't been a call by the Polish government to actually use the Solidarity platform, and there are mixed signals when it comes to the relocation mechanism, because the Prime Minister said that, and the government spokesman said that we do not need a relocation mechanism, which, frankly, I do not understand. And again, I would like to explain that we do not mean creating a precedent and going back to this very, very controversial debate of 2015 and mathematical quotas. What we need is a system, a relocation mechanism, which is based on pledges, on voluntary pledges. But it needs to be coordinated and it needs to be managed on a European or even international level. So it's not a problem of us being in contact with the European Commission or the European Union or the United Nations, because we do it, and quite a few of the agencies are helping us out. The problem is that it is piecemeal. The problem is that some of it is simply based on improvisation. And of course, we appreciate it very much because every help is appreciated. And if it weren't for the help of the non-governmental organizations, volunteers, and so on, the system would have crashed long ago. But people are simply tired. Less and less volunteers. Of course, you know, I cannot keep it up with most of my social workers working simply with refugees because I need my city to function. We need to do both, help Ukrainians, but also make sure that our cities and regions function because we want the solidarity to last for as long as possible. So the problem is that we cannot do piecemeal approaches anymore and just be in touch. We need a system entrenched in place, of course, coordinated with the help of the central Polish government, but coordinated from up above with the European institutions, which need to be authorized to work not only in Ukraine, but also in Poland and other border countries. And we need this system, which is like, it works like Lego bricks. You know, this is a system in which every agency is responsible for different pieces of the agenda. And those agencies, both the United Nations and of course the European Commission, have a fantastic and great record of dealing with crises. This is a crisis of such magnitude that no member state, let alone local and regional authorities, can deal with it on its own. That's why I think that we need to have it done in a way which is much more coordinated. And that is my call and that is my plea. But of course, up to the moment that we have it, we are ready to collaborate and to liaise with all the people who are here on the ground trying to help us, and we are doing it. And I wanted to thank the European Commission for that, and of course all the other agencies. But also ECHO needs to be authorized to work in Poland, just as it was authorized to work in Italy and in Greece in such a difficult situation. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing, because without you guys, without local and regional authorities, it would be very difficult. Thank you for also helping us out, because there's this incredible outpour of solidarity from cities, local and regional authorities from all over Europe, which help not only Ukrainian cities and Ukraine, but also us on the border and on the front line. Thank you very much for all that.
Thank you for this answer and explanation. I can also confirm that this sister cities, it works not only that Polish cities who have partner cities in Ukraine cooperate. Well, for example, my city of Gdańsk, we have two sister cities. One is Mariupol, where you really cannot transport humanitarian aid because no one can get there. The other city is Odessa, and this is actually what we can do, we can do. But I also would like to say about this sister cities help that works to help us in Gdańsk. So for example, Rotterdam, they say that can send some money for particular aim, Gijón, and so on and so on. Bremen is, of course, helping us always, and we receive quite a lot of transports that are coming to Gdańsk, and then we can repack them and send where it is really needed. So thank you very much. And we have three people remotely. Dunay from ACTED, and then we have Mr. Ostropolsky from EU Delegation to Kiev. Mr. Dunay?
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm Aurélien Donnet from ACTED, an international non-governmental organization working in 40 countries. And I wanted today to take the opportunity to share the vision of humanitarian actors working on the ground in Ukraine and surrounding countries to respond to the major humanitarian crisis we are facing. Let me also thank first the European Committee of Region for inviting us to this working group. We are all committed to address the current major humanitarian crisis, including with the support of the European Commission, international institutions, French municipalities, and in close coordination with Ukrainian authorities that I take the opportunity to sincerely salute today. So since we've been working in Ukraine since 2015, with 150 staff and 20 partners in the country that have been committed since then. Since the 24th of February, I wanted to give you quickly what we are doing. So we relocated our Ukraine's capital office in Lviv and opened operational offices based in Dnipro, Vinnytsia, Czernivtsi, and a logistic hub in Czechów in Poland. We also opened some offices in Moldavia and Romania to respond to the global crisis. We have finalized partnerships agreement with 30 Ukrainian civil society organizations in 12 oblasts, because we believe that Ukrainian organizations and authorities that are represented today are at the front line of the humanitarian response, both for the internally displaced people and host communities. So what did we do concretely so far? We reached over 40,000 individuals with emergency humanitarian assistance since the start of the conflict. And we launched an operation in France with the support of France's municipalities, departments, and regions, an in-kind and in-cash collection from French people operation called Humanitarian Convoy for Ukraine. So concretely, we received already in Ukraine 10 convoys totaling 41 trucks for 600 pallets of humanitarian aid in Ukraine, in Poland, and in Moldavia, including items such as food kits, bottled water, hygiene kits, and first aid kits. Out of these, 400 pallets of humanitarian aid have been delivered directly into Lviv, into Kharkiv, and into Vinnytsia. We also delivered hot meal to 30,000 individuals in collective centers. In Donetsk, we distributed food to 4,000 people and delivered non-food items and hygiene kits to 2,000 people. In Kharkiv, we reached 300 individuals with food parcels and 143 with hygiene kits. And we also deliver a multi-purpose cash assistance to 700 individuals, because we think that it's very important not only to provide in-kind, but to provide also financial resources to people, to local organizations, to businesses, to collective centers. So what do we want to do overall? We are currently setting up and fundraising to conduct a global humanitarian response to reach 300,000 conflict-affected individuals inside Ukraine and in neighboring countries for the next 12 months. First, we want to deliver core relief items into directly conflict areas in eastern Ukraine. Second, support to IDPs in central and western Ukraine. Then support to Ukrainian refugees that we will be talking in a minute in Moldavia and Romania. And finally, we work also on disaster preparedness and stabilization, because we hope for a better future, and we want to prepare also for peace times and better future. We see two key priorities now, and I will soon stop. Priority one is to ensure a life-saving humanitarian corridor for supplies and evacuation, so the aid can safely be delivered and people evacuated. The second priority we see is that we need to support IDPs and municipalities that we've been discussing with since the first day of ACTED's intervention in the countries for service delivery. Service delivery in host communities is severely stretched by a huge influx of internally displaced people, and there is a need also to support the host communities in close partnership with local authorities. So finally, I will provide a call. So our in-kind contribution represents less than 20% of our response. We need also to be able to channel funds. Reason why we are globally asking for support from a region of Europe to be able to achieve these goals. Thanks a lot for listening to me today.
Thank you very much, because this is really important that we cooperate together on all levels, also with non-governmental organization, humanitarian organization. Thank you very much, Mr. Dunay. Now we move to Mr. Tomasz Ostropolsky, EU delegation in Kiev. You have 2 minutes, if you could be really brief. And then we have sum up from Mr. Negoda from Kiev.
Can you hear me, colleagues?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, President. Good morning. Доброго ранку, шановні друзі і колеги України. Tomasz Ostropolsky from the EU delegation to Ukraine, currently speaking from Warsaw. Well, an element which I wish to stress today, I think, is very relevant for the venue of the meeting, being the Committee of the Regions. Since 2016, the EU has largely supported decentralization reform in Ukraine, which is now considered a great success. And the benefits of this form of the local self-government were clear in peacetime, but now we can see the strength of municipalities and local leaders who spoke also today, of also in wartime. So when we admire this reaction of the Ukrainian state, is largely due to the power and to the resilience of the local authorities playing its prominent role both in Ukraine and in the EU. So to give a tangible illustration, I wish to highlight that the EU invested over 150 million euro for the support of the development of the local self-government in Ukraine. And the vehicle of our assistance is our flagship project, ULEAD with Europe, with 24 regional offices all over Ukraine and reaches to all 1,469 municipalities, so-called hromadas. So currently our project is a well-known and recognized partner on the ground in Ukraine, and we take benefit of these direct local contacts, provide assistance in the most efficient way. Well, there is, of course, time today to speak about all of assistance over the last 6 years. I will only make a point on the flexibility of our project. It was the first one to provide locally great help under COVID-19 in the form of sanitary equipment. And now it does the same and much more with emergency supplies. So now our project, ULEAD, has been repurposed to provide some assistance both to those involved in reception of internally displaced persons, and second, to those most affected by the war. So in that respect, procured so-called packages, including water products, power generators, spotlights, chainsaws, water tanks worth over 15 million euro. So the products are now arriving to a warehouse close to Rzeszów and will soon reach the Ukrainian municipalities. Moreover, the project, the ULEAD, is assisting municipal partnerships, liaising EU cities willing to help their Ukrainian partners. And there we already have very tangible results. So already in the first half of March, the first truck from Slovenia reached hromadas of Bucha and Trostianets, and then Sunday another delivery reached Monastyrska and Drohobych oblasts with 12 tons of long-term foods, of hygiene products, water, and rescue equipment. So in short, all hands on deck from us in this marathon tour, but maybe contrary to a classical marathon, we are doing our utmost to be quick as possible also on the first straight of this run. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ostropolsky. And our last speaker to sum up, again from Kiev, Mr. Vyacheslav Nehoda, Deputy Minister of Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine.
Дуже дякую, пані голово. Я хотів би від щирої душі, від себе подякувати за цю розмову, яка сьогодні відбулася, за це надзвичайно важливе питання, яке сьогодні болить не лише Україну, не лише українців, а як ми переконалися, всі країни демократичної Європи. І ми дуже вдячні за цю неоціненну допомогу, яку ми отримуємо сьогодні у всіх питаннях, в тому числі і гуманітарна допомога, яка виникла. І ми не раз чули сьогодні, що називається, часто вживається слово «криза», і це насправді так. Звичайно, мене також вразили слова одного з мерів, коли говорять про втому. Так, ви втомилися, повірте, ми не менше втомилися. Ми втомилися від вибухів, від сирен, від смертей, від крові, від сліз. Це надзвичайно тяжка і, можливо, для багатьох втома, яку дуже важко буде пережити не просто на роки, а на все життя. Але ми будемо боротися, як тут і говорив і мер Львова, ми будемо боротися, щоб ця війна завершилася, щоб вона завершилася перемогою демократії, щоб вона завершилася перемогою людей, які сповідують людські цінності, які проти крові, які проти смертей. І я хотів би також сказати наступне. Ми сьогодні обговорюємо наслідки. Ми сьогодні обговорюємо наслідки того, що трапилося. А я хотів би, щоб за тим ми завжди пам'ятали, яка причина. А причина все ж таки агресія. І я вдячний і представнику і Румунії, і Франції, і інших, хто говорили і згадували про те, що вони своїми листами звертаються до мерів російських міст, про те, що російський народ зовсім в цьому не винен. Але я вам, шановні колеги, скажу таку цифру. Можливо, ви її чули, можливо, ні. Понад 80% росіян, останні соціологічні дослідження, майже доходить до 90%, підтримують, одностайно підтримують війну, одностайно підтримують кровопролиття. Близько такої ж цифри вони вважають, якщо Росія нападе на країни Європейського Союзу, вони теж і це підтримують. Чи можемо ми довіряти і звинувачувати лише, там називають лише Путін винен і винен режим. Режим тримається на плечах людей, які допускають ці режими. Ви знаєте, що Україна декілька разів боролася за свою демократію, і якщо українському народу не подобався той чи інший режим, ми його змінювали демократичними виборами і досягали своєї мети. Тому на завершення теж просив би, і ми це звернулися на Конгресі місцевих та регіональних влад, який відбувся на минулому тижні, з такою пропозицією. Ми говоримо про міста-побратими, ми говоримо про споріднені міста. Чи можуть бути містами-побратимами ті міста, які сьогодні підтримують агресію? Чи знає хтось хоч одного мера Росії, чи хоч знає одну раду, місцеву раду в Росії, яка засудила війну? Я думаю, колеги, ви таких не знаєте. Чи можуть бути вони нам далі містами-побратимами? Напевно, ні. І ми звернулися з пропозицією, щоб призупинили чи взагалі розірвали стосунки з такими містами, які фактично також на стороні агресії. Вибачте за таку ремарку, але ми не зупинимо кризу гуманітарну, поки ми не зупинимо війну. І ми повинні всі розуміти причину цієї війни. Ми повинні зробити все, щоб агресор, країна-агресор була звідусіль оточена санкціями, щоб їхні кораблі не могли зайти в морські порти, щоб їхні вантажі і товари на їхніх товарах не зароблялися гроші на нову зброю. Тому я хотів би, звичайно, ще раз подякувати за сьогоднішню розмову, але наше основне завдання, спільне завдання – це зупинити війну, зупинити агресора, зупинити силами України. Якщо ми цього не зробимо, повірте, він піде далі. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nehoda. By the end of our meeting, our group, we are going to adopt a statement where we are also touching the issue you've mentioned. We really not only cross the fingers and not only wish you good luck, but we are really doing also our political job to support Ukraine, and then on the other hand to stop Russian invasion also in an economical way, not to be supported from the European countries. Thank you very much. This first session on humanitarian aid, we are unfortunately 20 minutes late. I'm really sorry about this, but we had really lively discussion. So now we are moving to thematic session number 2, supporting the Ukrainian refugees in the EU regions and cities. With more than 3.7 million refugees having left Ukraine and an estimated 6.5 million having been displaced within the country, what we are facing today is the biggest humanitarian crisis in Europe since the Second World War, and it is becoming worse each day. EU's border regions are facing enormous pressure in some of the Polish cities, including the capital of Warsaw. What Rafał Trzaskowski had just said, the number of refugees comprises 15% of the population. Romanian, Hungarian, Slovak and Polish delegation to the court asked to help from the other members to relocate some of the refugees farther across the European Union. For the moment, the greatest burden of the refugee support on the ground is taken up by volunteers and civil society. More has to be done in a structural way by us local politicians and by our representative national governments. I'm happy to welcome at this panel a list of speakers with first-hand knowledge about this refugee crisis. They represent Košice region in Slovakia and town of Przemyśl in Poland, both most affected by the refugee inflow. Directorate General for Migration and Home Affairs, directly responsible for formulating the European Commission operational response to the crisis, and the Ukrainian NGO based here in Brussels, helping the arriving refugees on the ground. So first of all, please, let's move to Košice. We have Ratislav Trunka, Chairman of Košice Self-Governing Region. I'm not quite sure if Mr. Trunka, he is remotely connected. Mr. Trunka, are you with us? The floor is yours, and then we will move to Przemyśl, to Mayor of Przemyśl, Wojciech Bakun.
Thank you very much. The Košice Self-Governing Region condemns the Russian Federation military attack on our neighbor Ukraine. Since the beginning of this armed conflict, we have done everything to help the people who had to leave their homes because of the war. We allocated funds for humanitarian aid for our borders and brothers and sisters. Us and our region has become one of the first safe places for Ukrainians fleeing the disaster. Every day we are a part of the lives of our brothers and sisters, and we try to be a great support to them in these moments. Due to the great linguistic, culture and historical connections with Ukraine and its people, Slovakia, often mainly its eastern region, our region, represents natural elements in their lives of many Ukrainian citizens. Our Slovak language is the closest of the European language to Ukrainians. Many Ukrainian citizens study and work in our border region, and families live their daily lives across the border. Our region represents the gateway that the EU opens for our friends. Dear colleagues, let me briefly present the practical measures we have introduced. We are focusing on few important points. First, having information. We opened information stands for people from Ukraine directly on the border and the railway and bus stations. Volunteers provide information and necessary assistance related to accommodation and transport. Many of them work 24 hours per day. Second point, faster and more efficient accommodation. Even before our national administration, the Košice self-governing region launched and booking systems to meet refugees' individual needs. Refugees can have requirements about the accepted length of stay, proximity to medical facilities, or the possibility to bring pets. The system provides volunteers with up-to-date information on available capacities. Therefore, the volunteers can make an online reservation in the chosen facility. Previously, it took us at least 15 minutes to help an Ukrainian family while a volunteer telephoned the accommodation facilities, but all it takes now is 1 or 2 clicks. Third point, providing accommodation and meals. Košice region provides accommodation in more than 26 regional facilities. Fourth point, our volunteer center coordinates all volunteers in the region. Under one roof, we're providing 100 regional volunteers per day. Fifth, transport. Our contracted bus company operates regular bus service from the border crossing with Ukraine. Moreover, residents of Ukraine can use the bus services anywhere in the Košice region free of charge. Sixth point, people for people. We prepare humanitarian aid warehouses. Anyone who wants to help can buy or donate essentials. Also, the region opened a transparent bank account. Individuals, businesses, and other organizations can contribute, and necessary things for Ukrainians can be provided. Seventh point, integration of Ukrainian refugees' children in schools. Very important point. The region assists in the integration processes of children in the Slovak school system. We have increasing numbers of incoming high school students studying in many of our 63 secondary schools. It is with a heavy heart that we look at the situation among the war refugees seeking safety. Some children have no parents. We help children from the orphan in Lviv to get the safety. I'm pleasant that in this test of humanity, apart from the regional government, everyone who can is giving and helping hand. Dear colleagues, this is the highest number of refugees we have ever had to deal with. It is an unpredictable experience for our region and our people, and it comes with its challenges and difficulties. Dear all, no matter the challenges, we will stand with Ukraine and try to help the refugees as much as we can. But to sustain our efforts, we need strong support from our national partners and you and European partners. To succeed, this must be coordinated European projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ratislav. Best regards to Košice. And now we are moving to Przemyśl. Mayor Wojciech Bakun. Are you connected? Okay, the floor is yours. Bardzo proszę, panie prezydencie, drogi Wojtku. You need to musisz nacisnąć na guzik, żeby Big button.
Okay.
Dziękuję.
Thank you very much. I just want to talk about some digits.
If you think our city, I'm the mayor of the 60,000 population city, and in last month we supported about 700,000 to 800,000 refugees. We are the probably biggest reception point in Poland. We organize help, manage people coming through nearly 3 borders in Medica, in Korczowa, and also railway border in city center Przemyśl. All that refugees was supported by us. Receive medical help, psychological help, and especially, all that food and drinks, hygienic things. We provide everything. But, we are the frontline city, and we organize that for just a temporary stay. We organize about 3,000 beds in our reception center, but we had a few nights where about 5,000 to 6,000 refugees stay over the night because we have no connection with different cities in Poland. We manage that situation on the very front line. To be honest, is less refugees coming through the border now. But if someone asks me, especially press, ask me about how we do this, we have no any refugee camp in Poland. Answer is very simple, because every refugee, nearly all of refugees coming to Poland stay in our houses. We open our hearts very wide, and we keep all that families, all that people, all that refugees in our houses. But in the future, I think that we reach some capacity in our houses. And the most important thing, and what we should think about it now, is prepare many spaces for keep that refugees for the longer time. It's the most important thing at this moment, because if we organize very quick on the very front line, so it's not possible organize that many places for the longer stay in that short period of time. So we have to think about how we organize that place for the longer stay. That's the most important thing, and I just want to say is the key point for the future for every cities in Poland, but also for every cities in Europe, because a lot of refugees, a lot of Ukrainians want to go to different countries. A lot of them want to stay, especially they want to stay very close to the border. If we talk with them, they said, they want to back as quick as possible. They just waiting for safe situation, and if that war will finish, they will back very, very quick. So that's the reason why we should think very quick, because we have no time for thinking another month, because we need that place nearly now. So that's the main point, and that's what I want to say to you. So thanks for your help at this moment, because we receive a lot of help from the Europe, from the different cities, from some NGOs in Europe. But please think about next step, and the next step is a lot of place, a lot of space for that refugees for the longer time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bakun. Drogi Wojtku, bardzo dziękuję. So now we will see the movie, because Mayor Bakun said about the digits, the numbers, but I think that if you could see this, what we saw when we were visiting Medyka and Przemyśl, maybe this will also show you how is the situation there.
Bardzo ciężko, bardzo. I ludzie umierają, dzieci. Coś strasznego. Coś strasznego. Ja nie umiem panu te wszystkie przekazać.
Mieszkania нема. Już rozbite.
Naprawdę to jest bardzo trudne czasy dla Ukraińców. Bardzo dziękujemy Polakom, wszystkim krajom Europy za to, że nam wspierają, ale no niestety widać, że tej pomocy nie jest tak za bardzo dużo, nie? I jeżeli ktoś mnie tam usłyszy czy coś, no proszę o tej pomocy, nie? Bo każdy Ukrainiec teraz walczy o niepodległość całej Europy i mi się wydaje, że to jest ważne для нас.
Просимо помощь, тимчасовий захист. Коли закінчиться війна, хочемо повернутися до рідного краю, до України, до нашої неньки.
W ciągu miesiąca przez Przemyśl przejechało 700 tysięcy uchodźców. Blisko 2,5 miliona uchodźców z Ukrainy trafiło do polskich. Mimo tego nie mamy w Polsce ani jednego obozu dla uchodźców. To nasze wielkie serca spowodowały, że wszystkich ich przyjęliśmy pod nasze dachy, ale wraz z rozwojem tej sytuacji nie będziemy sobie w stanie z tym poradzić sami. Pomóżcie nam.
Будь ласка, допоможіть нам.
Допоможіть нам, будь ласка. Please help us.
Допоможіть нам. Please help us.
Допоможіть нам, будь ласка.
Can you help, please?
Thank you very much. Now we are moving to our guest from the European Commission, Ms. Buleha, Head of Unique Migration Management Response from DG Home. All right, you are here. All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And on behalf of the Commission, first of all,
could you please speak to your microphone, which is here, because for the translation it would be much easier. Thank you.
So I speak from DG Home Affairs, Migration Management, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity and also for the opportunity to listen to representatives who are on the front line. This being said, from the perspective of the Commission, I wanted to inform you of the first initiative taken by the Commission after the adoption of the Temporary Protection Directive, which is the setting up of the Solidarity Platform, a platform that aims at collecting and listening to the needs of the Member States in terms of reception and more, and to match those needs with offers for solidarity also across the Union. So it gathers the EU member states, the Schengen associated countries, and also EU agencies and a number of services of the Commission which are key to line up all the instruments. Now, the Solidarity Platform, as a first big operation, has taken care of indeed alleviating the heavy burden on Moldova and organizing the transfer of persons displaced from Ukraine to Moldova. We have until now 8 member states which have pledged to transfer people from Moldova. Another 3 associated countries, Switzerland, even Liechtenstein, offered to help. In order to organize this operation, of course, with counting on the generosity of the member states, also the support of EU agencies, UNHCR and IOM, it is our lessons learned. We have a few flights which have taken place, is that a number of people to be transferred come with vulnerabilities, some traumatized. So we have had to agree specific procedures to be doing that with the care for vulnerables. And we have another set of procedures also to care for unaccompanied minors. There are a number of them which needs to be transferred with specific procedures. Alleviating the burden of Moldova has been a top priority under the Solidarity Platform because it helps also Romania and the other countries neighboring Europe. Of course, you will tell me this is not enough. What about the other member states, in-union member states, which are under pressure? Within this procedure for transferring people from Moldova, we have foreseen also and agreed with the great help of Romania to have the possibility of having a stopover so that people could be also transferred from Moldova, the corridor to Bucharest and all the way to other member states. The vision is more than that, as I have been hearing from many representatives here. It's also about alleviating the pressure on the remaining member states neighboring Ukraine. There, I think the second set of operation under the Solidarity Platform is to establish an EU-level coordinated approach for transfer and hubs of information, as we have seen, where people are gathered. The ultimate objective there is to have an orderly, let's say, organization of all the refugees across the European Union. It is important at union level. I hear a lot of appeals to have a systemic and a union organization for this unprecedented movement of people and displacement of people. So the ambition here, as it was discussed at the Council of Ministers on Monday this week, is to have an EU coordinated level. So we need a vision and a clear picture of where are the concentrations and the hubs, the human hubs, where are the transport hubs. So we have started this week, no later than yesterday, to discuss with the transport sector the transport hubs, but also for the countries which are able to show what is their reception capacity. In this operation, it is also important to provide the right information. We see that refugees make the preference to stay closer to the ground, which is a legitimate thing that we need to understand. But we see that tomorrow there is a need also for people to be moving onward if the capacities in the overstretched neighboring member states cannot cope anymore. So this is the second busy agenda for the Commission. And with that also providing the right information to people on their rights, on the opportunities for moving onward, the transportation, but also the opportunities and offer in remaining member states. It is, and I hear there are a lot of bilateral type of cooperation and solidarity happening already between many municipalities and countries and in the neighboring in the neighborhood of Ukraine and the rest of Europe. But we would like to see this being scaled up. Now, I have heard also the call for, a massive call for solidarity even beyond the European Union. And we do have, since the beginning of the Russian aggression on Ukraine, we have intensified conversations, contact and cooperation with partners of the EU. And we have agreed already tomorrow, Thursday, yes, to kickstart a really concrete discussion and exchange notes with the US, Canada, and the UK. All of them have either pledged to take persons displaced from Ukraine directly, with different sort of schemes, you name it. It's resettlement, it's family reunification. So we are now coordinating notes between the efforts from the European Union and from these partners of the Union. Yes, today it's US, Canada, and UK, and tomorrow we may need more. Last word on this. Indeed, an important thing is to deal with the situation of today, but another important thing is to prepare contingency for more than that, because nobody knows what tomorrow is going to be made of, and this is yet another strand of work that we are taking care of. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I see already Ms. Groter would like to ask the question, but first we have Luba Karpachova, and then we will move to the discussion. Okay, so Luba Karpachova, Refugees Department led at Promote Ukraine here in Brussels. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for having me here and giving a chance to speak about the challenges we have here, specifically in Belgium, that we're having with the displaced people, with the refugees from Ukraine. So my name is Luba Karpachova. I am a refugee department lead at Promote Ukraine, and it's an NGO based in Brussels. Originally, Promote Ukraine was was founded in 2014 when the first case of Russian aggression at Ukraine territory took place. At that time, the organization was more as a media and advocacy platform created. But as of February 24th, 2022, a large number of volunteers joined our organization, and we literally grew from a few people to more than 70 skilled professionals who are working day and night to support not only people in Ukraine by providing and sending them humanitarian aid, for example, but also working with the displaced Ukrainians who had to flee the country. And I will speak a little bit more about our experience as volunteers. So please bear with me because, again, I will be talking about the non-government organization experience. Belgium, being on more of a western side, almost a western frontier of European Union, wasn't really prepared for an influx of refugees. Well, nobody in reality was, but from what we have experienced, Poland, Romania, or Slovakia, or other bordering countries with Ukraine, they organized almost immediately and very quickly the reception centers for refugees, welcome desks, translation services, so even advice on the safe transit through the countries, and we're really thankful for that. But in Belgium, what we have seen initially, the initial challenges were that people were arriving to Belgium and they were recommended just stay with your friends or family. And you can imagine only few people had really friends or family here. The registration process was terrible. People had to stay for hours, 8 to 12 hours on the street, literally under the rain. Many vulnerable people with disabilities, elderly, with young children, they had to wait for long hours to be able to register for a temporary protection status, and there were no food, no support, no blankets to keep them warm during the night, for example. Nobody was really expecting them here. And thanks to the huge number of volunteers, not just our organization, but there were a lot of people, volunteers, who were offering help, hot tea, support, advice, translation. We managed to get through this crisis. And I do want to thank Belgian government compared to how usually everything is taking place with all the bureaucracy. In reality, in a few weeks, they coordinated, and now we have a proper online registration process. People do not stand anymore on the streets waiting. However, we still have some issues with the welcome desks and info lines, and this is something that we're still working with. But in general, we have passed the initial crisis for the first influx of the refugees in Belgium. So from the current challenges, what we're seeing specifically in Belgium, and I'm guessing some other countries may relate to that. So first of all, in Belgium, after the people getting temporary protection status, there is a very different registration process in order to obtain a so-called Card A. So that's the official card with which you can obtain insurance, you can work officially, you can also apply for the money support. And depending on the town, but some towns will take a 2 weeks process, but we already have examples of small villages or cities where people need to wait just to register for more than 2 months. They have appointments on the 1st of June. That means that they're living in a temporary housing, they don't have money, they don't have any support. Belgian people who are hosting them, of course, they are not able, to provide food for those people on a daily basis. It might be families of 6, 8 people sometimes. So people do not have money, work, and on top of that, many people are coming with their own savings, which are obviously in Ukrainian hryvnia. So again, they cannot exchange hryvnias in Belgium, at least. I know Poland implemented certain laws to allow people to exchange up to, it's approximately 300 euro, a little bit over, to exchange those money. And that's very, very great. I'm very grateful for that, but I don't think we have the same process for the countries that are using euro. The second big challenge that we're experiencing already now, and that's what we're seeing, and we're asking for support in this direction, is the job search. The job search, you have to keep in mind that majority of people do not speak local languages. So obviously, being in Belgium, it's almost impossible to find a job without even at least basic English. So that's first problem. Then officially, diplomas are not being recognized officially, and the current process might take 3 to 4 months. If younger generation, Ukraine was already part of the Bologna process, so for younger generation, at least the diploma can be equalized, but again, after 3-4 months, which is a very long time. For older generation, diplomas will not be even equalized, so again, they will not have official diplomas to work. So question is, what kind of jobs can they have here? And the third big group is most of our refugees are mothers with young children. So mothers right now are single because their husbands are fighting for Ukraine in Ukraine. And even if they find a full-time job, they cannot be present at this job full-time in reality because they need to bring kids to schools, to kindergartens, etc. So again, we need collaboration. We need some projects where we could potentially, and as an organization, we already have some ideas, but I'm happy to talk about it at a more global scale as to how to make sure that we have projects for potentially jobs without languages or without diplomas. There would be a lot more, creating opportunities here would be very, very appreciated. The long-term housing, I think a lot of your colleagues already mentioned that it's not just for Ukraine or Poland, long-term housing. Housing in Belgium, for example, that's also quite important because most people right now are staying at temporary places. And again, hopefully, of course, the war and peace, the war will be soon over and everybody will go back to Ukraine. But a second option is that it will be a long-term problem. So those people will have to find accommodation and again, where are we going? In Belgium, estimate it's going to be 200,000 people coming to Belgium. That's an estimate as of today. We do not know how long the war will continue, and if this is going to be truly a number, probably even more people will come to Belgium. And the last challenge that we're having, and I will mention that, so I already mentioned at the very beginning, the volunteers were helping a lot, people in the line for the registration. However, unfortunately, by the government, we weren't allowed to provide official support. So while the government were mentioning to us that they need help with the translation and with people, they weren't allowing us to stay there at the registration center. We were literally kicked out from the train stations because we wanted to organize welcome desks there. So we do need collaboration and support in recognizing volunteering organizations. Again, we are an officially registered NGO, and even we had issues with obtaining certain permits and being able to help. We are here to help, and we have skilled people to do that. So please, for the government, please consider to collaborate with the NGOs because they're closer to the issues and they're a little bit more effective without long bureaucracy needed. With that being said, thank you all so much for your attention, and Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava. Thank you very much, Ms. Karpachova. We are slightly running out of time, therefore I really ask you for brief comments and brief questions. First, we have Ms. Grotter from PES. 1 minute, please.
Oh, that's short. Thank you so much. So what I want to say is that for me and for the PES group, it is very important to say that from our point of view, all refugees who arrive at the European Union deserve equal treatment, which means we do not only have to deal with the Ukrainian refugees, but we still have refugees arriving from other countries, which is especially a problem in my hometown because we're trying to do it for all of them and we try to treat them equally, even if they have a bit of a different legal status. But we have to find accommodation for all, and we have to find schools for all, and we have to make sure that they all get healthcare and so on. And from our point of view, we had about 10 to 20,000, the numbers differ, arriving at 2015, 2016. And luckily, we are now able to reinstall all the measures we had 2015, 2016, which means we have accommodation. We even take gymnasiums over for accommodation of refugees today. And we can make sure that lots of our volunteers who are helping then are now helping and are very, very kind to do that. But let me just mention two other points. They bring their own money. Lots of the refugees bring their own money, and we have to find a way to make them change it into euros. Just if it's not, traded like other changes, everything else. And we have to make sure that we prevent them from being trafficked. Yeah, that's why we have police all over at the main stations, and so on, just to try volunteers not to get to them and pick them up and just go away with them, because we think about now we have about 6,000 officially registered, and we might have another 3,000, that's just a guess because they haven't registered yet, who have arrived and have been taken home by private people. So we don't know what happens to them. And as long as they are not registered, we cannot help them if anything goes wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this comment from PES group. And now we have Mr. Branda from ECR and then Ms. Ratlanen from Greens.
Thank you very much. I promise to share our experience from the Czech Republic during this session. Actually, there was a great wave of solidarity among the Czech people, even I would say amazing and unexpected. People instantly provide housing. I personally lived in Ukraine for 2 years when I was young, so I know people there. So we also have a family of 5 staying with us. A neighbor just provided a home for another family. We have a small hotel in our village that hosted another 3 families from Ukraine. So this acceptance is great. Also, there is great efforts of bringing people and helping these regions, from Slovakia or Poland, bringing them straight to the Czech Republic and helping them on the space. Also providing clothes, food, furniture, and so on. So there's also great help by the cities, regions, and state. There's a special law that grants protection and also almost the same rights as Czech citizens to the Ukrainians. They have free access to labor market, to schools, to educational system, they have free medical insurance so they can access hospitals. But there was a strong role of the regions. They all set up welcome centers for Ukrainians, like a one-stop shop where you can register and receive all these things and even accommodation if you don't have one. But this is the first temporary help. I think what is most important and maybe even more difficult is helping these people feel welcome and become self-reliant. It means to find them some stable housing, also helping them find a job. I go to interviews with them to translate so they can get a job, calling a director to get children into school. So I think this will be more challenging with time. And since the conflict, I think, will not end soon, and the crisis will not end soon, I think our role as local and regional leaders is also in keeping up and maintaining the acceptance of helping refugees among our citizens. Because there are already voices by the populists saying, why are we not helping Czech citizens and why are we giving money to Ukrainians? And since this will be a long-term issue, I think this will be our main goal to keep this acceptance among our citizens, explaining them the situation, to be able to stand and help Ukraine in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we are moving to Greens, Ms. Ratlanen, and then we move to Mr. Van Raas, Renew Europe. But please stick to the time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ukrainian people need to survive, but they also need to survive the trauma and the losses. And I want to emphasize that the children and youth, they need to continue their studies and education when we meet them and see them in our cities as refugees. Because this is a question of Ukrainian future, of course, because children and youth are the future. And in humanitarian crisis, the youth often suffer such disruptions in their education, and in some crises, they might have even lost a long period of education altogether. And we have to prevent this happening, of course, in every way we can when we welcome refugees in our hometowns. In Finland, I want to share our experiences of universities and universities of applied sciences who have decided to remove tuition fees of the refugees under temporary protection mechanism. And we are currently working on ways for Ukrainian young people to be able to both continue their studies and start studies in our universities and secondary schooling system. This Tuesday, actually, a group of refugee children started a school in a municipality called Nousiainen in Finland, which has a population of only 4,700 people. We have such small municipalities still. But I wanted to share this example with you because I want to emphasize in the end that, in our opinion, no city or region is too small to contribute to this crisis, and everyone can share some burden of we helping together as cities and municipalities. And of course, we are now in the face of war and really dire humanitarian crisis and atrocities. But we have to remember that one day Ukrainian youth and children hopefully will be able to rebuild their nation. And this is what we have to support in our cities also at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this voice. And now we move to Renew Europe and Mr. Van Raas. And I have two voices from European Alliance. If you could decide who of you will speak, Mr. McCarthy or Mr. Lech. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. President. First of all, of course, solidarity is the key word in what's happening, and we all should do whatever we can to help people from Ukraine. But I just wanted to recall what was said here before. Of course, we spoke about the Belgian situation, but Belgium is also receiving other people coming out of migration. And just to give you a figure, last year we had 144,000 people coming in. And so we have to deal equally with those people as we do with Ukrainian people. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that locally in Belgium, we have welfare centers, and those welfare centers have the obligation to give a reply to questions asked by people who are coming over. So when you have Ukrainian refugees coming into Belgium, they can go locally to their welfare center who needs to give a reply to their demand within the month and who has to deal immediately with urgent matters, just to inform you. I'm also dealing with university matters, and there I can tell you that for the university I'm working with, the University of Brussels, we decided that all Ukrainian students would be helped by our university. And so we created a special fund just to help them because they are in a very difficult situation. When we speak about the University of Brussels, you speak easily about 100 to 150 students who from one moment to the other are without income because, of course, no money is coming in. And so we created that, and I know the other Belgian universities just do the same thing. So, of course, at the beginning, there was it took some days to give the right reply to the urgent matters, but I think now things are going better, and of course, we can always do better. And now many other organizations, I'm also a member of a Rotary Club, they are helping concrete people on a concrete base from day to day. So I think the reply in Europe is massive, and this is a good thing. And of course, we are fighting for Ukrainian people, but also for democracy, and this is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now Mr. Lech, European Alliance.
Dziękuję, Pani Przewodnicząca.
Dużo już zostało powiedziane na temat tego, co robimy w Polsce i co robimy w Europie na rzecz nieszczęsnych uchodźców. Szanowni Państwo, szczególnie my Polacy, odczuliśmy to jako po prostu naszą wojnę. To tak jakby zbrodnicza Rosja napadła bezpośrednio na nas, tym bardziej, że mamy z Ukrainą wspólną historię, trudną, ale wspólną i w tej chwili chyba nikt nie powie, że Rosja jest bratnim narodem ukraińskim, tylko właśnie Polska i Ukraina, szczególnie my na wschodzie. Mnóstwo działań, które zostało przeprowadzone przez te 31 dni przez naród polski spowodowało, że te 2,5 miliona uchodźców znalazło u nas schronienie jak we własnym domu. Szczególnie my, samorządowcy, tym bardziej, że prowadzimy w tej chwili, nawet wczoraj powstał raport dotyczący naszych dotychczasowych działań. Są to rzeczy niezwykłe, które zostały dokonane w naszym kraju, ale również w innych sąsiedzkich. W różnych regionach naszego państwa różnie też do tego podchodzimy, bo mamy w Polsce około 2,5 tysiąca gmin, ponad 300 powiatów, 16 regionów i oczywiście zupełnie inne działania podejmowane były przez regiony, gminy, miasta leżące w najbliższym sąsiedztwie Ukrainy, inne przez Warszawę, a inne jeszcze w oddaleniu. To, co cechuje uchodźców, którzy trafiają do Polski, to to, że relokacja jest dobrowolna. Stąd też największy napływ uchodźców jest oczywiście do stolicy i do dużych miast, a duże rezerwy tkwią jeszcze w mniejszych gminach i mniejszych miejscowościach, ale wszędzie ci ludzie znajdują otwarte serca i chęć pomocy. Zbieramy dary, przygotowujemy bazę i wciąż ją uzupełniamy o miejsca, gdzie znajdą ci ludzie swoje nowe życie w naszych rodzinach, w naszych różnego rodzaju kwaterach i tak dalej. Prowadzone są zbiórki pieniędzy, redystrybucja darów, czy to do ośrodków uchodźczych, czy bezpośrednio do miejsc potrzebujących na Ukrainie. Jak również mamy kontakty nie tylko między sobą, jako samorządy polskie, ale również jako nasze bliźniacze miasta czy gminy w Europie Zachodniej, czy w różnych miejscach świata. Mogę się podzielić krótką refleksją, ponieważ dosłownie kilka dni temu byłem w ośrodku uchodźczym w Hrubieszowie, 5 kilometrów od granicy z Ukrainą. Szanowni Państwo, to jest coś niezwykłego. Kilkuset wolontariuszy z Polski, z Europy i ze świata, którzy śpią w śpiworach na podłogach, ażeby pomagać tym ludziom, którzy tam w tym ośrodku, był to wcześniej, jeszcze dzień przed wojną, rozgrywane były mecze sportowe, hala sportowa przekazana przez panią burmistrz tego miasta. Oddolna inicjatywa mieszkańców, którzy determinacją doprowadzili do tego, że ten po prostu obóz powstał. Najpierw dla 100 osób, ale w ciągu dnia by przybywało tam nawet 600 uchodźców, którzy później byli odbierani przez czy to samorządy, czy NGO-sy, czy przez nawet autobusy, które zmierzały do różnych państw w Europie. I jeszcze na koniec jeden apel, który mamy jako samorządy polskie, jako samorządy europejskie. Mamy już ponad 250 podpisów burmistrzów z Polski, z Europy i świata pod tym apelem, ażebyśmy wywierali nacisk na rządy swoich państw, aby przestać handlować ze zbrodniczą Rosją, żeby przestać im dawać pieniądze na wojnę. To państwo i ci ludzie nie zasługują na jakiekolwiek wsparcie, więc róbmy wszystko, ażeby zablokować kupno i sprzedaż czy to ropy, czy gazu. Stać nas na to, ażebyśmy zapłacili więcej, ale morderców nie można wspierać. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lech, especially for this appeal at the very end. So now we are very quickly moving to our political debate, because one of the speakers, Mr. Vitaly Klitschko, Mayor of Kiev, have really limited time for us. So very quickly we move to this debate. And without my forwards, we will move to Kiev. Vitaly Klitschko, are you with us? Not only mayor of Kiev, but also head of the Association of Ukrainian Cities.
He should be connected. We don't see him, but he should be there.
All right, Mr. Klitschko, Vitaly, jesteś z nami? Okay, so I will.
Maybe conclude the refugee.
All right. So anyway, thank you very much for this very informative session on refugee issue. We really would like to present something what was prepared by the Committee of Regions. We would like to offer a tool to help connect these requests and offers. We launched today an additional module to our Solidarity with Ukraine website. This is so-called Info Support Hub for Regions and Cities. You can see it on your screens. Through this hub, members and partners can submit their request for support, as well as register their offers to accommodate displaced persons, provide transport, interpretation, schooling, and other forms of help, as well as material support for the temporary placement of refugees. I call on all members to spread this information and to join this database. The working group secretariat stays at your disposal to provide more information and contact. So I do hope that this hub will be useful tool, replying also to the needs we already discussed during this debate. Do we know if we have connection with Mr. Klitschko? All right. So anyway, we are moving to our political debate on current political context and the EU response. The Russian invasion on Ukraine received worldwide condemnation. Governments around the world, international organizations, civil society, local leaders were very vocal about the grave breach of international law committed by Russia. The UN resolution to condemn Russia for its invasion was approved by a vote of 141 to 5, calling for Russia to immediately completely and unconditionally withdraw of its military forces. The EU adopted an unprecedented package of sanctions that are already now affected Russian economy, especially the military sector. These sanctions will have an impact on our own economies, on the energy market, as the war already does on many sectors on economy and demography, but not a price is too high to pay to save the human lives. Another round of high-level international meetings took place last week here in Brussels with the presence of the President of the United States. NATO, G7 and EU Council adopted additional measures to stop Russia. In a meeting with Charles Michel, European Council President, the US President Joe Biden stressed that the single most important thing we have to do in the West is to be united. There are still avenues along with the EU member states need to find greater unity vis-à-vis the Russian aggression. Looking at our core colleagues, just the one appeal mentioned before, our members' initiative in actions in the past week, I can say that the EU regions and cities are united more than ever, showing unbreakable solidarity with the Ukrainian partners. In the last session, we are welcoming high-level guests who did their fair share in helping Ukraine on the international scene and are well placed to describe the political context we are working in. Do we have Mr. Klitschko with us?
They're rebooting. Maybe they connecting.
All right. So maybe we will move to our first speakers. Welcome, Mr. Michael Gahler, member of the European Parliament Standing Rapporteur on Ukraine. Mr. Gahler, the floor is yours.
Dziękuję bardzo, Pani Przewodnicząca. Bitteschön. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for the invitation. And as we're here in the Committee of Regions, just before you, my previous interlocutor was the chairwoman of the Kharkiv Regional Council, Mrs. Yehrova Lutsenko. I just met her in the parliament. And I also learned that Kharkiv region is twinned with Wielkopolska. And my region, Hesse, is also twinned with Wielkopolska, but we are not yet twinned with Kharkiv. So I hope so such a way we might establish something together in helping after the war the Kharkiv region to recover. I think that is one of the tasks that we should all undertake wherever we are from. Look, there are existing links already, and how can we extend it to existing partnerships and thereby help together also the regions and the cities in Ukraine to rebuild. As you rightly said, I am the standing rapporteur, and of course I have been for quite a while. And with this 24th of February, our agenda has changed completely. And I'm glad to see the unity that we have established, not only in the EU and NATO, but in the entire West, and also unity with regard to saying clearly who is the aggressor, the Russian president personally, but the country as the aggressor state is the country that is on the other side now. We are united with the sanctions. We are united with the support and also with accepting the refugees from the country. So insofar we are in good shape, but Mr. Putin did not believe. He thought we would be divided. He thought we would have some formal protests and some small sanctions, as he did receive after the Crimea annexation, or we didn't react on Syria, we didn't react on Georgia properly. So he thought he would be on the safe side, minimizing his risk, and he would be welcomed by bread and salt and flowers by the oppressed Ukrainians. Misconception, total misconception. He believed in his own propaganda. And I think what we have to do now, of course, is not only implement what we have decided, but work further. And of course, I didn't mention the weapons deliveries yet. I'm very grateful for all who are investing a lot, supporting Ukraine in their legitimate fight against the aggressor. So let us, from all political fields, and support our governments, all those, and the European Union in an unprecedented step to use the European Peace Facility, a new instrument. And now we already spent $1 billion for Ukraine. I think a very strong message. But we have to, and that is indeed the challenge, we have to acquaint and make everybody very clear in the entire European Union that what we are faced with is a geopolitical fight. It is nothing only about Ukraine. Russia doesn't consider it only about Ukraine. Ukraine was attacked not before because NATO weapons are threatening Russia, but because Ukraine's European path, if successful, is a threat to the way Putin governs his country. And because Ukraine has opted for democracy and the path towards the European Union and Europe, the European way of life, that is why this country is attacked. And if he could, he would like to subjugate it and reunite it, as he sees it, with motherland Russia. You all have or could have read his essay on history from last year, where he said it's about one people, one empire, one language, and one church. And that gives him the legitimacy to get them in German Heimensreich, the old way to incorporate territories that do not belong to you, but yet you pretend. That is why we have to realize Ukrainians are, because they fight for our way of life, they are fighting for us. And the rest of the world, and that is very important, the rest of the world has witnessed how the West, in some unfortunate way, left Afghanistan, so left ground behind. They are watching how we are reacting to that. And if it were that Russia would win this war, that would be, for the rest of the world, another indication that the West is not able anymore, not only to preserve its influence, but also not to be helpful to them. So putting it in a positive way, we have to win this war, to be very precise about that, because it's not only about Ukraine, but it is about our global standing as democracies. And insofar, it is this challenge that we are facing together. Unless we win this war and Russia is at least sufficiently weakened and doesn't have the power to continue this aggression and also to think twice about further aggressions, unless we achieve this goal, we will be the losers in the eyes of the rest of the world. And that is what we cannot afford. And that is why we need to stay united, why we need to continue our efforts, and we need also to discuss, and that is the crucial point where we come, it's not even the weapons anymore, it's the energy imports. And there we have, of course, divergent opinions in different countries. And my political position is very clear. In order to shorten this war, to make it quicker over, then we would need to be very strict on this. So I am not representing now my government's position from Germany, but I'm clearly of the opinion that we should, at short notice and immediately, have the boycott of oil, gas and coal. I hear for coal and oil it's easier, and for gas, at least some people say, well, as quick as possible. Actually, of the income that Russia has gained, and since the beginning of the war, it's around 20 billion euros that they got as an income for the deliveries to the entire EU. And by day, increasing by 500 to 600 million euros. Apparently 73% of the income is oil. So it's not even gas that is so to say, the real income source. So if we, at least in the first step, got oil and coal blocked, and that could be replaced, that would already cover most of the income. And still, we are, as we speak, probably faced with the opposite boycott, where Russia is now, as they insist, to be paid in rubles. Some Americans call this currency in the meanwhile rubble. Rubble meaning, well, all the debris that is after the war only. But no, my point is, if Russia takes this step, we are in the same situation. So we have to prepare for that. I just heard this morning that the German government has staged the first alarm phase for gas shortage. So others might do the same, because from the 1st of April, actually, if the Russians mean what they say, that they will not deliver gas for nothing, we might be faced in 2 days with a gas boycott from their side. It has to be seen. But in my mind, what is definitely important is, if we want to shorten the war, we need to be very precise and very stringent with the implementation of that. And we need to see to, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Galler, for this very concrete and clear vision. I do hope that this will also be adopted by the European Parliament. We are now moving to Kiev. We have connection with Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Vitaly, the floor is yours.
Are you listening?
Yes.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much. First of all, Council of Europe, European Committee of the Region, Corlip, for everyone. We very appreciate for your help, for your support is very important for Ukraine, for your humanitarian support, for your activity to take the people who move right now for temporary move from Ukraine, for financial support and also for weapon support. A couple of messages from Kiev. We received yesterday information. Right now the Russian forces move away from Kiev. It's not true. Whole night we listen to sirens. This means a rocket attack, and we listen a huge explosion east of Kiev and north of Kiev. It's means battles there. The people still died. It's really bloody war, and everyone have to understand the reason of this war. The reason Ukraine want to be independent country, Ukraine want to be a European country, Ukraine want to be the part of European family and with democratic values. We don't want to live in authoritarianism where nobody have in Russian Empire, where it's no human rights, no press freedom, no principal values, and actually the reason to rebuild Russian Empire. Everyone was surprised how Ukrainian forces stand front of one of the strongest armies in the world, the Russian army. Clear explanation why. Everybody's surprised in the world. Because Russian soldiers are fighting for money. They paid very well, but we fighting and defend our families, our children. We're fighting for our future, and we fighting also for every one of you, because we have the same principles. We have with European Union the same values, and the reason of this war. Wish to rebuild Soviet Empire. We was in USSR and we don't want back to USSR. We see our future is part of European family. One second message. Right now, we very appreciate for everyone who helped Ukraine, but we not understand some position of politician in Europe. It's the position I can tell is half pregnant. From one side, they told, yeah, we're against the war. From another side, they still communicate with Russia. I mean, the business communication. I want to tell, the sanctions work very well. The sanctions very effective. And that's why it's every euro, every cent, what you send to Russian Federation. Russia never invests this money to economy, to the people. They invest the money to the army. And result, the images, do you have everyone see images from Ukraine? The result of this communication with Russia. If you make the commercial communication, business communication with Russia, this money have a blood. It's Ukrainian people blood. Right now, the world is white and black. And you support the freedom and principles and values and peace in Ukraine, or you support the aggressors at the Russian Federation. We understand it's very painful for economy for many countries. But right now, this is big tragedy, not just for our home country. For 40 million Ukrainians. It's big tragedy for whole Europe. And please don't forget, I listened that today from speakers, and I want to repeat, we're fighting for the same values. We defend not just our countries and our cities. We defend also European principles, and everyone have to understand that. I don't want to use so much time. I understand that the time is limited, but I can explain so many things. Everyone in Ukraine and everyone in Europe have one wish: to stop the war, to bring peace back to Europe. And thank you for everyone, for your activity, for your proactive position to do everything to bring the peace back to Ukraine. Big regards and thank you very much. We very appreciate for you support, humanitarian help. We need that right now, especially in this situation. We see who are real friends of Ukraine. Still with Ukraine. And last message, please, unity is our key for peace in Ukraine. Please stay with Ukraine, stay for the peace. And our unity is a strong position. It's bring peace for Ukraine. But we still defend our home country. We still defend our citizens. We still defend our homes. And we hope the war will be finished soon as possible. Thank you.
Mayor Klitschko, thank you very much for this opportunity to hear you directly. Dear Vitaly, I'm not quite sure if you heard what Mr. Galler just had said about his not only personal view, but also, as I deeply believe, this will be part of the report of the European Parliament regarding stop trading with Russia, especially with those strategic sources like oil and coal. I do hope that my home country, Poland, will also accept this and do this. So we really wish you a lot of power, and we really do hope that the war will stop as soon as possible. All the best. Slava Ukraini. Thank you again. And now we move to Mr. Serhiy Tereshko, who is Deputy Head of the Mission of Ukraine to the European Union. Mr. Tereshko.
Thank you, President. Dear President, dear Mr. Galler, dear President, honorable members of the group, on behalf of Ambassador, I convey his and our mission's appreciation of your activities and of your particular group and of the European Committee of the Region in general. It is visible, it is sound, and we really do convinced that this role of your body is meaningful. Given the political nature of the panel which we are now in, I would probably shortly stop on the key general political expectations, issues which we hopefully will be supported by the European Committee of the Region and your particular group. In many cases, I believe it is already the case when the regional dimension of the European support is very strong, is very practical, and we still see the potential to further develop this support because in fact it is all about democracy. The national governments are listening to your communities, are listening to your cities, are listening to your regions, and this is up to you and to use this democracy force to push your national governments to make more difference in the international and EU in particular support of Ukraine. Mayor Klitschko in fact described the critical situation on the ground. It's full-fledged war, nothing to add more. It's war in Europe. And we do believe and we do count that every European, every community, every city consider this war as a war against them, as a war against Europe, and that is why my first Ukrainian call is to have this war visible on the ground of your communities, on the ground of your cities across Europe, to keep demonstrating that every one of you, every one of your citizens, of your community members are Ukraine. So that it is not fight only of Ukraine, it is consolidated fight of Europe. That is why we really encourage you and welcome you to keep mobilizing campaigns, manifestations across Europe in your cities to demand more support for Ukraine, to demand, which is really important, still to push national governments to close the sky over Ukraine. Because, as I said, there are much more potential that sometimes citizens in Europe believe in, that they can influence their national governments. It is really heartbreaking when we see your important landmarks across Europe lighted in Ukrainian national colors, and Ukrainians in fact see these signs of support, and this kind of solidarity should be further developed and demonstrated. So first, it's please keep support of Ukraine visible on your European streets and squares. Second, it's already well said by Mr. Galler and by Mayor Klitschko that again, sometimes sanctions are very important. Sanctions are strong and harmful to Russia, but sanctions still not overwhelming to stop Russian warfare. That is why many things can be still done on national level, just on even regional level, just limiting and closing any business with Russia, stopping trade with Russia, making money with Russia, preventing investments to Russia. And just a recent example, on this weekend, my Minister of Foreign Affairs just publicly criticized one of the European-wide companies which possess hundreds of stores across Russia. That company refused to leave the market of Russia. And there was a public pressure. And yesterday, at least one element of this change was withdrawn from Russia. It was announced that we are withdrawing from Russia. So public messaging, public pressure matters, because at the end, any business cares about their reputation, even though sometimes they are not directly targeted by the sanctions. So it is also in your power, in your local communities and regional communities' power to push to stop trade and making business with Russia. Next point is humanitarian assistance. Indeed, we highly appreciate that the European Union has launched, without exaggeration, largest ever humanitarian response to the situation in Ukraine, supporting both Ukrainians in the besieged cities, Ukrainians which are internally displaced persons across Ukraine, and also Ukrainians, millions of them, which are already now in the European Union, in your cities, in your towns, in your communities. So we encourage you to continue mobilizing humanitarian assistance, and to this end, we kindly encourage and invite you not only use and support the national mechanism of this humanitarian assistance, but also develop and make a full use of your twinning system, region to region contacts, city to city contacts, to not only to support the government's level assistance to Ukraine, not only on the level of the government to government, but also direct assistance to particular cities, particular communities which you can be in touch with, or even now. We invite you to look for a potential small towns, small communities across Ukraine, and to establish partnership relation. I originally come from the little town in Zhytomyr region, and my town never had a partnership relation with any French community, for instance. It's just kind of example. And when already the war has started, the mayor of this town, it's Bourges, city of Bourges in the middle of France, just contacted the mayor of my town and suggested let's establish now twins relations, and they concluded partnership agreement already under shellings and via video call. And since then, already a couple of hundreds of my children from my town are already in that town. So this is kind of example that we can still act already now and invent new mechanism on even in these circumstances. So next element, we altogether have to start thinking about comprehensive plan of the post-war rebuilding and reconstruction Ukraine. We can call it Marshall Plan, and I appreciate the European Parliament's resolution at the beginning of this large-scale invasion, calling for such kind of Marshall Plan. And I believe Committee of Region has also endorsed in its resolution such kind of assistance. It should be really comprehensive plan, and we have to altogether build up the new European Ukraine with all the infrastructure needed. And in this kind, we can also invent very, very, very simple but very, very, very practical solutions. Just again using your twins partnership relations. Just take particular community, take particular infrastructure object, and for instance, your community takes kind responsibility to rebuild some hospital in some small town. Like it was on national level already announced that Italian government announced that they will rebuild Mariupol theater. Greek government said they will rebuild Mariupol hospital. So nothing prevents all of us to rebuild small ambulance place in some village. So do use this opportunity. Do engage into this plan of reconstruction Ukraine on the local level.
Tereshko, sorry to
yes.
to intervene, but we really need to, because we have really tough schedule and also other guests waiting to speak. So thank you very much for this intervention. And now we are moving to Mr. Verbeek, who is a president of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of Council of Europe. 5 minutes, if you could stick to the time, please.
I'll do my best. Dear Chair, dear speakers, and then all members here in this meeting. I would like shortly to connect the personal suffering to the abstract debate on a political level we have. In daily life, I'm a governor of the region of Flevoland in the Netherlands. And yesterday on the train station of Utrecht, a traumatized woman from Ukraine arrived. She had been fleeing her country and she arrived with one of her children and the 2 other children died on the way. This is what we're talking about. We have contact with the region of Maramureş as a province, and they reported me that busloads of children are arriving there, heavily traumatized children, 2, 3, 4 years old. Nobody knows where their parents are. Nobody knows where they come from. They can hardly talk to each other. This is what we're talking about. Also, I would like to start the meeting that I welcome this kind of meetings. Not everybody realizes how important it is to have meetings like these. The political signal, the pressure that we organize with each other is so valuable. I've seen this in many meetings I participated. Don't underestimate what's happening in a situation like this. Don't underestimate the need for communication by all of you to tell about meetings like these and the pressure that we organize. In the face of the brutal war waged by Russia against Ukraine, such meetings, as I said, are extremely important, not only to communicate, but also to coordinate and to continue our efforts in aid and support of the Ukrainian local and regional authorities, who find themselves literally at the front line to protect their citizens and to ensure their basic needs. So, as I said, this meeting in itself is a political statement. And I want to thank you also for the opportunity to address you today on behalf of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of our Council of Europe. It must be clear that as a Council we stand united in solidarity with the people and the authorities of Ukraine. And we salute their courage and their fortitude, and they continue to battle against this invasion. As you already know, the reaction of the Council of Europe was swift and united. Within 3 days, Russia was expelled from this organization and all its bodies, and from most of its treaties and partial agreements. At its session last week, the Congress unanimously adopted the declaration on the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine. In one voice, Congress members condemned in the strongest terms this blatant breach of international law and stressed that they stand firmly with Ukraine and its people. The Congress called on Russia to cease the war immediately and unconditionally, stop the bombing of civilian infrastructures and residential areas, ensure humanitarian corridors for safe evacuation of civilians, stop human rights and humanitarian law violations, and withdraw its troops, recognizing the key role of local and regional authorities in addressing the disastrous humanitarian consequences faced by the citizens. The Congress also condemned the intimidation, abduction and killing of local and regional elected representatives in Ukraine. In the debate before the declaration was adopted, we heard testimonies from the Deputy Minister Negoda, from the Mayor of Kiev, Vitaly Klitschko, from the Mayor of Mykolaiv, Alexander Tsenkevich, and from members of the Ukrainian delegation. Yesterday, the Russian troops shelled the building of the Regional Council of Mykolaiv. This is an attack against the symbols of democratic institutions. I call again on the Russian side to release all 11 mayors who are abducted and retained, and I fully endorse the Mayor Klitschko appeals in this respect. In these testimonies about the atrocities committed in Ukraine, we heard the tremendous pride for this nation defending itself against the aggressor and the firm commitment to the values of freedom and democracy embraced by the Ukrainian people. These values are the source of their strength today. We in the Congress are also proud of the immediate response by numerous local and regional authorities and their associations in other European countries, providing aid to their Ukrainian counterparts and hosting refugees from the Ukraine. In the days before and after the debate, the associations of Ukrainian local authorities held a number of meetings to coordinate these efforts. We know that bilateral aid was provided, for example, by the associations of the local authorities from the Netherlands, Norway, the network of local authorities associations of Southeast Europe, and by many, many other individual local authorities. We have brought together our partners, European associations of local and regional authorities, such as the Association of European Regions, the AER, Association of European Border Regions, the Conference of Peripheral and Maritime Regions, to name but a few, to coordinate their support to the Ukrainian people and authorities. To coordinate these efforts, the Congress supported the launch of a platform created at the initiative of the city of Sindelfingen in Germany, whose mayor, Mr. Bernd Föhringer, is president of the Congress of Chamber of Local Authorities. The platform will serve to match the demands and needs of Ukrainian cities with the capacity, know-how, and supply from other European cities. Through this platform, local and regional leaders in Ukraine will be supported in addressing the daily challenges of citizens in their cities, towns, and villages. Our Congress also has financed bulletproof vests for our Ukrainian representatives in Congress so they can continue their work in their own country. I invite you all to visit the platform I spoke about. It's called City for Cities, with 4 with a number in it. Please register and give your contribution to convert political support to concrete operational activities. Do not underestimate your possibilities for political support. At the same time, we in the Congress remain in regular contact with the associations of local authorities and in particular the associations of Ukrainian cities, our privileged partner for several years. We are using the strong partnerships built over many past years, implementing the Congress cooperation activities in Ukraine. And I'm also convinced that the many reforms undertaken in Ukraine, especially on decentralization and local empowerment, have contributed to the admirable resistance today. Many of you here today have contributed to this work, which has helped to make local communities and their leaders stronger in standing up for democratic values. And this is resounding proof that a society built on these values can withstand any aggression. Because, as the Congress stressed in its declaration, democracy, multi-level governance, and human rights are stronger than war. And this is why our work here, also in this meeting, is so important every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Verbeek. We have limited time for the political groups, so please really be very, very stick to the time. 1 minute. First, EPP group, Mr. Gablewicz. 1 minute, please.
Dziękuję bardzo. Chciałem tylko podkreślić, że to co powiedział pan Mayor Klitschko, ta wojna jest dlatego, że Ukraina chciała iść naszym europejskim modelem i naszymi europejskimi wartościami. I dlatego ta wojna to jest tak naprawdę wojna z nami wszystkimi i tak jak powiedział pan galer. My musimy wygrać tą wojnę. Nie miejmy złudzeń. To, co w chwili obecnej się dzieje, to pewne zatrzymanie. To jest tylko cisza przed kolejną falą. Dlatego my jako władze lokalne, jako władze regionalne i my jako grupa polityczna EPP uważamy, że nasza rola jest bardzo duża do zrobienia. Po pierwsze musimy promować wśród naszych mieszkańców, że to jest nasza wspólna wojna. Po drugie, musimy wśród naszych mieszkańców promować gesty solidarności, humanitarnej solidarności zarówno z miastami i regionami na Ukrainie, jak i z wszystkimi uchodźcami, którzy dzisiaj w dużej mierze przybywają do Polski, ale wiemy, że za chwilę pojadą dalej. Dlatego wszędzie potrzebna jest wspólna solidarność. Po trzecie, musimy wywierać presję na nasze rządy, aby natychmiast z jednej strony dostarczały broń, a z drugiej strony żeby wprowadzały realne sankcje, bo i tutaj musimy wiedzieć, że świat jest czarno-biały. My musimy wiedzieć, że tutaj wszyscy ci, którzy nie chcą wprowadzać sankcji, którzy chcą dalej handlować z Rosją, tak naprawdę powinni się znaleźć poza klubem wspólnoty europejskiej. Powinniśmy to jasno i wyraźnie za każdym razem artykułować. Wreszcie powinniśmy wywierać presję na Komisję Europejską i na wszystkie organy Unii Europejskiej, aby budować pomoc tu i teraz, żebyśmy zbierali pieniądze tu i teraz na pomoc Ukrainie, na pomoc uchodźcom i wreszcie, żebyśmy myśleli długodystansowo, żebyśmy skończyli z naiwnym myśleniem, że świat wróci kiedykolwiek, będzie kiedykolwiek taki sam i będziemy mogli robić z państwem rosyjskim, przynajmniej w takim jego autorytarnym kształcie, dalej biznes. Nie będziemy mogli, musimy zbudować własną odporność, musimy zbudować dobrą perspektywę dla Ukrainy na jej odbudowę, musimy uniezależnić się od rosyjskich źródeł, starać się wywierać presję na zmiany również tam. To są wszystko działania, które muszą być podjęte. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Geblewicz. And now we are moving to Mr. Ortyl. Sorry. We have first Mr. Grotter from PES group, and then we have Mr. Ortyl from ECR group.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I will speak German. Wir sind der Meinung, dass alle Flüchtlinge gleich behandelt werden sollten. Die International Crisis Group berichtet, dass Minderheiten sowohl von ukrainischen Behörden als auch bei der Ankunft nach Polen oder Ungarn diskriminiert werden. Farbige Ukrainerinnen und Nicht-Ukrainer berichten, dass sie sowohl von ukrainischen Personen als auch von Personen in den Aufnahmeländern bei ihrer Flucht nicht gut behandelt wurden. LGBTQI Personen laufen Gefahr, in Polen und Ungarn, den beiden größten Aufnahmeländern, weniger herzlich willkommen zu sein, da sowohl die polnische als auch die ungarische Regierung homophobe und transphobe Rechtsvorschriften verabschiedet haben. Transgender-Frauen dürfen die Ukraine nicht verlassen, weil sie in ihren Dokumenten als Männer identifiziert werden. Auch diese Fragen müssen wir ansprechen, wenn wir über eine Hilfe für die Ukraine sprechen. Gleichzeitig müssen wir dafür sorgen, dass wir unsere eigene Energieunabhängigkeit so schnell wie möglich erreicht werden, ohne uns anderen Ländern auszuliefern, in denen die Menschenrechtssituation ebenfalls problematisch ist oder auch dort zu Kriegen führt oder diese unterstützt. Darüber hinaus bedarf es einer engeren Zusammenarbeit mit ukrainischen Städten. Die SPE-Fraktion möchte vorschlagen, eine förmliche Vereinbarung mit dem Verband ukrainischer Städte, der Präsident ist Vitali Klitschko, zu unterzeichnen. Teil des Angebots könnte sein, dem Verband ein Büro in den Räumlichkeiten des ADR zur Verfügung zu stellen und eine neue Partnerschaft zu begründen. Außerdem müssen wir unbedingt sprechen über die EU-Erweiterung und den Kandidatinnen und Kandidaten realistische Angebote zu machen. Das war auch gestern Bestandteil der CVEX Commission. Und der Besuch der Konferenz der Präsidenten in Polen ist in kommender Woche von entscheidender Bedeutung. Vielen Dank.
Vielen Dank. Dankeschön, Frau Grotter. And now we are moving to Renew Europe, François de Coster, and then Mr. Ortel from ECR Group. Monsieur de Coster. 1 minute. Okay, so we are moving to Mr. Ortel, and then maybe we will. Do we have connection with Mr. de Coster? So, okay, so Mr. Ortyl, Panie Marszałku, bardzo proszę.
Dziękuję bardzo Pani Przewodnicząca, Szanowni Państwo. Myślę, że oceny nasze polityczne, oceny nasze historyczne są dzisiaj prawidłowe i celne, ale myślę, że nie możemy pozostać na tych komentarzach, na tych ocenach. Musimy działać. Jesteśmy w Europie w XXI wieku, a putinowska Rosja porywa ukraińskich samorządowców, merów wielu miast, jak to było powiedziane. Na pewno jest to starcie, szanowni państwo, cywilizacyjne. Pamiętajmy o tym, że myślimy mamy do czynienia naprawdę z wielkimi zjawiskami tutaj społecznymi i politycznymi. Chciałbym przykład dać naszych oczywiście polskich obywateli, naszych wszystkich działań samorządowych i też dlatego też zaapelować o tą dobrowolność i przyjmowanie rodzin ukraińskich. To się dzieje oczywiście w Europie, nie ma wątpliwości, ale chciałbym o to apelować, żeby tak dalej było i dedykowanie tutaj jest konieczne też środków europejskich. Ja myślę, że ta baza ofert zweryfikowanych będzie działała i będziemy mogli przedkładać to rodzinom ukraińskim do wykorzystania. Proszę Państwa, myślę, że dzisiaj musimy bezwzględnie mówić o przyjęciu Ukrainy do Unii Europejskiej, ale nie tylko mówić i także nie wydawać takich opinii, o którą możemy posądzać każdego urzędnika, który powie, mamy tu procedury, to się zgadza, ale proszę Państwa, sytuacja jest nadzwyczajna. Musimy mieć podejście nieszablonowe, o tym pan prezydent Trzaskowski dzisiaj mówił, to ja się z tym zgadzam i podpisuję. Były jakieś błędy w tej sprawie, dzisiaj może cierpimy za to, ale zostawmy to, idźmy jak gdyby do przodu. Mamy nową perspektywę finansową, bezwzględnie konieczny jest program dla Ukrainy. Pamiętajmy o tym, że Komisja Europejska wyrzuciła Białoruś z programu Polska, Białoruś, Ukraina. Został zablokowany też program Polska-Rosja z obwodem kaliningradzkim. Twórzmy program, twórzmy działania i naprawdę ten ogrom zniszczeń i społecznych, i infrastrukturalnych, gospodarczych widzimy co dnia. Nowa perspektywa jest po to, aby środki europejskie jak najszybciej trafiły.
Bardzo dziękuję Panie Marszałku. Thank you very much. And now we are coming back to Mr. De Coster. 1 minute, please, if we have connection.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je pense que ce matin, nous avons vu une communauté politique en action. Et je crois que cela nous amène à penser que quand nous alignons nos valeurs aux actions que nous entreprenons, nous devenons crédibles. C'est la solidarité. Je pense qu'il nous faut retenir le message, l'appel du maire de Varsovie et créer nous-mêmes ce schéma de relocalisation sur une base volontaire. Je crois que le Comité européen des régions pourrait proposer un tel schéma dans les jours qui viennent pour que nous puissions ensuite l'alimenter grâce à la plateforme que nous mettons en place. C'est la question de la reconstruction. Là encore, je crois que nous avons à jouer notre rôle de relais entre les autorités locales et régionales. Et le niveau européen, comme un continent qui n'a pas la maîtrise totale de sa souveraineté. Il nous faut aller conquérir notre souveraineté énergétique. C'était la CECA qui nous a lancé dans le projet européen. Aujourd'hui, cette affirmation d'une souveraineté énergétique est essentielle pour l'avenir de l'Europe, comme nous devons conquérir notre souveraineté militaire et créer, après l'échec de la CED en 1954, une véritable Europe de la défense. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. And now we are moving to European Alliance. Kieran McCarthy, the floor is yours.
Yeah,
1 minute.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Can I first of all welcome the launch of the Info Support Hub by the Committee of the Regions. And we have heard this morning kind of many challenges and many concerns. I was quite taken, Madam Chair, by Wojciech Spakon's video and the sentiment from the people, please help us. I think the more that we gather and respond to individuals' needs across the millions of refugees, the better that we keep a focus on that. We also heard this morning with the challenge of targeting raised finance into the right channels. We heard this morning of the crucial role of local and regional authorities in the front line and the need for logistical support. We heard this morning the need to support the Commission's core aid points. I know there's a lot of people who are just Some people are driving into Europe with large trucks and looking for these aid points. They're randomly, even though there are many people who are targeting and they know who to speak to. So we need to help people who want to help. I think that's important. We heard this morning the call to strengthen the solidarity platform, the call to look at the piecemeal and improvisation of the relocation system, the fear of overwhelming waves of refugees to come, the need to recognise educational qualifications and diplomas, the need to further support sister cities collaborations, the need to harness networks of local and regional authorities. And I feel this morning we're only scratching the surface of what we need to do as a Committee of the Regions. So my question is, when are we going to meet again? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kieran. And now we are moving to the Greens. Ms. Raatilainen, 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And on behalf of the Greens, I want to express gratitude for you and all our colleagues who are in the front line and have been mobilising solidarity, strong response and humanitarian aid so far. We are very committed to engage actively in our cities and regions to support our sister cities who are in the front line. And we are committed to welcome Ukrainian refugees into our cities, as well as all others that seek refuge from atrocities. We are committed to continue dialogue and calling for European solution to distribution of refugees. And therefore, we do welcome the declaration of the working group and its call for solidarity mechanism in receiving and welcoming refugees. We are motivated to combat human trafficking of women and children and girls who are in vulnerable situation at the moment. In Finland, for example, we are planning on working more closely in future with our sister cities in changing knowledge and practices in protecting people, and I encourage all who cooperate with their sister cities already to stop exploitation of vulnerable people who seek refuge. And we are committed to work in our cities to get rid of dependency on Russian fossil energy. If we want Europe to abandon Russian oil, coal and gas, our cities need to work for energy independence as well. Cities have to become self-sufficient and accelerate the green transition to renewable energy. We have energy plants and we have energy companies, and we have a role in cutting off the Russian energy. This will have a direct answer to war, as Mr. Geller said earlier. And I mean, the issue of energy and money is also our issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Raatilainen. Thank you, all the speakers in this part. And now we are moving to our closing session. Dear members, we are honoured to welcome today the European Commissioner for Home Affairs, Ms. Ylva Johansson, who will address our Assembly with some ideas to consider on how the Committee of Regions can work together with the European Commission to support Ukraine. It would be also great to hear about the result of the Extraordinary Home Affairs Council on last Monday, 28th of March, which decided to the new forms of technical support and flexible financing solutions in the form of a 10-point plan. Madam Commissioner, the floor is yours, and then after you, our President, Apostolos Tzitzikostas. Madam Commissioner, you are more than welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to address you. As you are all well aware of, we are in the middle of the biggest refugee crisis we've ever seen since the Second World War. And of course, my time is 24/7 occupied by all the problems, all the challenges, all the things that we need to deal with. But let me also start with the positive things. I would like to start by thanking you. In these days, I'm extremely proud of being European when I see how our citizens are opening their homes, are acting as volunteers, welcoming the refugees, giving things, helping in many aspects, the NGOs, the civil society, but especially, I should say, cities and regions. And you are in the leader of how to organize this with the local and regional authorities. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for all you are doing, because I think it's really impressive, the wave of practical solidarity that we see right now. And of course, the challenges are huge. Up till today, 3.8 million refugees have arrived to us from Ukraine. they arrive in the bordering countries, of course. 1.2 million has gone further on to other member states. When the peak, we received around 200,000 refugees per day. Now it has gone down the last week, around 50,000 per day, and yesterday 35,000 refugees arrived in European Union. We have looked into where these refugees are. They are not staying very long in all member states, so some of them go further on. When we take into account also the size of different member states, we can see that Poland is the #1 country with more than 1.5 million refugees still in the country. They are hosting the biggest population according to their own population, and are doing a tremendous, impressive job. Country #2 is Austria, also welcoming almost 250,000 refugees. Country #3 is Czech Republic, with the same amount as Austria, actually, really doing great. Country #4 is Estonia, hosting 25,000 around in a small country. Country #5 is Hungary when it comes to people staying there. So it's important to see that the countries bordering Ukraine are doing a lot, but also other member states are doing really, really a lot. Half of these 3.8 million are children, as you are also well aware of, and it's really also a change on those that are coming. The first wave was people with relatives, connections, friends in the EU. Many of those were picked up directly by their families or friends at the borders. The people coming now are more traumatized, are having less resources, are having very few of them actually know where to go. Very few of them have relatives or friends to connect to. And they are traumatized because we have seen the pictures from Mariupol and other cities. No question they are traumatized having experienced this. And I spoke to the Ukrainian Minister of Interior 2 days ago, and he told me about the systematic rape of women in front of their children done by the Russian soldiers. No question that they are traumatized when they arrive. So that means that they need more support now. They are more vulnerable when they show up. I know that you're all very involved in getting these children into schools, the childcare, helping the adults to get a job, having their proper health care and so on. It's important that all member states and citizen regions now step in to welcome the refugees. We should not force refugees to leave, but we should incentivize and welcome them and invite them to come to regions and cities and countries where there is still capacity. So this is something I will ask you. I think this is important that we have in this way a fair distribution by inviting people to come. And I really appreciate what you are doing, setting up this matchmaking tool with the needs and the capacity. I think this is extremely important. As you're probably well aware, we have this solidarity platform that meets twice a week that is really operational, doing the same. So tomorrow, for example, in the Solidarity platform with the member states, we are inviting also US, Canada, and UK to also see how they can fit into this, stepping in to help and welcoming the refugees. Canada, for example, has said that they will welcome an unlimited number of refugees, but many refugees hesitate a bit to go as far as to Canada. And I would like to look into how we can involve you, the Committee of the Region, but also the Eurocities, to be part in one way or another into the work that we are doing in the Solidarity platform, because I think you are you are key actors here, so this is important. May I also, 2 days ago, we had the Extraordinary Council, and I must say that this council has really been acting in an impressive and positive and constructive way. Only 1 week after the war started, this Council of Ministers of Interior managed to unanimously activate the Temporary Protection Directive, which is a 20-year-old directive that had never been used before. And I think this was really an impressive step. 2 days ago, we had an extraordinary council again, and now I presented a 10-point plan on what we need to do the coming days and weeks. And I will not go through this whole plan, but just to mention a few things. We need to step up on a European registration system to make sure that everybody's being registered in European in a proper way. We need to protect children better, so we are producing guidelines on the reception of children, and especially when it comes to unaccompanied minors. We need to do more to avoid trafficking. I must tell you that even before the war, Ukrainian citizens were on the top 5 nationalities to be trafficked into the European Union for sexual purposes, for prostitution, but also for labor purposes. And we have very few cases reported so far of trafficking going on, but when I spoke to the NGOs on the ground and I speak to the UN organizations on the ground, they all witness that this is really, they see more and more cars coming, trying to pick up vulnerable people to sneak in among all the volunteers, to take advantage of the situation and to use this opportunity to traffic women and children. And this is really an area where we need to step up significantly. And I need your help in that. Law enforcement is alerted. We are working on a special action plan on anti-trafficking as well. So a lot of challenges right now, a lot of challenges ahead of us, but also we should be proud of what we have achieved and of what we have managed so far.
Madam Commissioner, thank you very much for being with us for this closing session on the Working Group of Ukraine. And now we are just heading 1 o'clock, so 5 after 1, we will stay only with English language. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our interpreters who agreed to stay slightly longer. So now we are moving to Greece, to our president of the Committee of Regions, Apostolos Tzitzikostas. The floor is yours.
Yes, hello. Can you see me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay, give me 1 second, please.
You are usually president of the meeting, so you don't have this problem. Can Secretariat somehow... all right, we can see you. Hello, hello, Apostolos.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
We lost the connection, I think. So maybe we will. All right.
You have me.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
We all know poor body image can affect lifestyle choices, physical and mental health, and is associated with lower confidence and lower aspirations. So we've been taking steps to ensure young people have the skills to keep themselves safe through our work on media literacy and understanding that the online environment is not always reflective of reality.
Jill Furness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hormonoplasty and so-called virginity testing are disgraceful forms of abuse against women and girls. I was therefore pleased when the government committed earlier this year to banning them. Will the Minister update the House on when this legislation will be introduced so